Chapter 898. Exposed tracks stay in there. If what you said is true, I will release you from your shackles when I come out. However, if you lie, the moment I come out will be the day you die. The Devil Shadow said indifferently. Whoosh. Zui Qingfeng arrived above Zhuowen and coldly stared at the Devil Shadow. Devil Shadow, what do you mean by this? You dare to secretly bind a disciple of my clear void valley. Zui Qingfeng, can you not be so naive? Just now, the golden black pillar of light appeared for too short a period of time. This goes against common sense. How can the appearance of a treasure be so short? There is only this person in the valley. If we enter the cave and find that there is nothing inside, then it is very likely that the thing inside was taken by this person. This is also for insurance. Moreover, I didn't kill this person. The Devil Shadow's cold voice slowly sounded. A pair of inhuman eyes stared coldly at Zui Qingfeng through the black fog. Hearing this, Zui Qingfeng was silent. Actually, when he first entered the valley, he also suspected this clear void valley disciple in front of him. However, as the eldest senior brother of the clear void valley, he naturally felt embarrassed to act against a fellow disciple. Junior brother, sorry for inconveniencing you. Zui Qingfeng looked apologetically at Zhuowen in the black fog. Then, with a step, he rushed towards the cave that appeared in the forest of dead branches. Hypocrite! This is your clear void valley's eldest senior brother. Now, take a good look at his ugly face. The Devil Shadow laughed mockingly. Not to be outdone, he followed behind Zui Qingfeng and entered the cave, leaving Zhuowen in the black fog with an ugly expression. This Devil Shadow is really vigilant. Xiaohei, we must quickly break through this black fog. Otherwise, when the Devil Shadow and Zui Qingfeng come out, they won't let me off easily. Zhuowen hurriedly said to Xiaohei. Don't look at this dragon lord. Xiaohei crawled out of the spirit ring and snorted. My essence is almost depleted, and you still want me to be a coolie? From Xiaohei's appearance, Zhuowen knew that Xiaohei was probably powerless as well. After all, Xiaohei's injuries were no better than Zhuowen's. She had used up too much of her origin energy in the battle with the Azure Emperor. Boom! Boom! Zhuowen spat out a palm strike and smashed into the surrounding black fog. Zhuowen felt as if he had fallen into a swamp. His entire body rebounded, and his face turned gloomy. Brat! Try the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed. This demonic Buddha Bodhi seed contains a powerful demonic Buddha power. Perhaps it can break through this black fog, Xiaohei suddenly said. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. With a flick of his finger, the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed that was flickering with golden and black light appeared between his fingers. You have the nirvana power of the great sun in your body. Use this power to guide the Buddha power in the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed to break through the black fog, Xiaohei instructed. Pust! Zhuowen pointed his right finger at the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed. Suddenly, a powerful Buddha power flowed into Zhuowen's body through the golden left side of the Bodhi seed. Boom! Feeling the powerful Buddha power, Zhuowen immediately unleashed the nirvana power of the great sun, forming a four-headed and eight-armed form. Then, Zhuowen transformed into a 100-feet-tall body in a golden light. His power was terrifying. He threw out a punch and the air exploded. Suddenly, the surrounding black fog rolled wantonly. The black fog was completely covered by the golden light. Crack! In an instant, the black fog turned into nothingness. Zhuowen waved his right hand and put the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed into his spirit ring. Then, he rushed toward the entrance of the valley. With the help of the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed's surging Buddha power, Zhuowen could temporarily unleash an attack that was comparable to a Xuanzuan realm expert. However, it could not last long. Therefore, after Zhuowen escaped from the black fog, he ran away. He did not want to be chased by Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng. At this moment inside the stone cave, two figures came out side by side. Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng looked at each other. Their faces were not very good, because in the stone cave, other than the broken pieces of the statue, there was nothing else. There must be a treasure in here. But now there is only a pile of ruins. Needless to say, the treasure must have been taken away by that disciple of your clear void valley. Mo Ying snorted coldly. He took a step forward and rushed toward the tunnel. Zui Qingfeng's face was not very good either. He was the eldest senior brother of the Clear Void Valley, and was loved and respected by countless disciples. Generally speaking, if that junior brother of his had obtained a treasure, he would not have hidden it from him. However, the current situation made Zui Qingfeng somewhat unhappy. Thinking of this, Zui Qingfeng followed closely behind and rushed out of the tunnel. Not good. My black fog prison was broken. How is this possible? That guy is clearly only an ultimate three-wheel emperor. How could he have broken my black fog prison? In the tunnel, Emoing cried out in surprise. His face was filled with both shock and anger as he rushed forward at an even faster speed. Behind him, Zui Qingfeng naturally heard Emo Ying's words, and his face was filled with disbelief. Emo Ying was an expert of the Xuanzuan realm after all. Breaking his black fog prison was not something an ultimate emperor could do. Moreover, the disciple who was trapped was only an ultimate three-wheel emperor. In an instant, Zui Qingfeng realized that there was definitely something wrong with that disciple. Swoosh swoosh, swoosh swoosh swoosh. Emo Ying and Zui Qingfeng both arrived on the surface at the same time. The two of them discovered that the black fog that had trapped Zhuowen was no longer there, and Zhuowen's figure had also disappeared. There really is something wrong with that guy. However, did he really think that my black fog prison was so easy to break? Emo Ying snorted coldly. He took a step forward and rushed toward the entrance of the valley. Zui Qingfeng looked pensive as he followed behind Emo Ying. At this moment, a considerable number of Clear Void Valley disciples had gathered at the entrance of the valley. They were all looking curiously into the valley, but none of them dared to enter. Zhuowen silently blended into the crowd. When he had stealthily walked out of the valley, he had blended into the crowd of Clear Void Valley disciples. With the powerful effects of his 100 transformations technique, Zhuowen knew that it would be very difficult for Emo Ying and Zui Qingfeng to find him in this crowd. Senior brother, I finally found you. What happened in the valley? How could there be such a terrifying vibration? A short disciple suddenly rushed to Zhuowen's side and patted Zhuowen's shoulder as he asked with a smile. Turning his head, Zhuowen looked at the short disciple in front of him. He immediately recognized that this person was the junior brother who had been guarding the entrance of the valley at the beginning. Silently pulling the short disciple to a remote and inconspicuous corner, Zhuowen briefly told him what had happened in the valley. Zhuowen's performance naturally did not attract the attention of the other disciples. After all, the surrounding people were also discussing what had happened in the valley. The demon Taoist and Emo Ying of the Heavenly Peak Demon Palace have both come? How despicable! They actually dared to snatch the demon Buddha Bodhi tree from the hands of the sect master. How despicable! Hearing Zhuowen's story, the short disciple's face flushed red as he angrily muttered in a low voice. Swoosh swoosh. The sudden appearance of two figures in the valley attracted the attention of many disciples. When these disciples discovered that the ones who had appeared in front of them were actually Emo Ying and Zui Qingfeng, their gazes revealed a strange expression. Looking at the appearance of these two people, it seemed that they had walked out of the valley together. Weren't the two of them engaged in a fierce battle just now? How come they were now at peace? Zhuowen's heart thumped. He pulled the short disciple and quietly hid in a crowded place with his head slightly lowered. He tried to restrain the aura in his body as much as possible. Do you really think you can escape from my palm? My black fog does not only have the effect of trapping people. Emo Ying looked down at the numerous disciples of the Clear Void Valley below. His cold voice slowly rang out as he continued. I'll give you a chance now. Take the initiative to come out, and I can spare your life. Otherwise, when I find you later, everything will be too late. Emo Ying, don't be too arrogant. Our senior brother is still behind you. Yes, Emo Ying, you, a member of the Heavenly Peak Demon Palace, actually dares to shout in front of our Clear Void Valley. You're looking down on our Clear Void Valley too much, aren't you? Senior brother, this Emo Ying is unfilial. Let's take him down together. Emo Ying's actions undoubtedly aroused the indignation of the numerous Clear Void Valley disciples below. Sounds of gnashing teeth rang out one after another. They wanted nothing more than to capture Emo Ying. Emo Ying sneered, hee hee. Your senior brother still needs me to find the guy who stole the treasure? Why would he care about me? Emo Ying, Don't be too arrogant. Quickly find the guy who stole the treasure. Zui Qingfeng's gaze was somewhat cold as he coldly said. Hee, can't wait anymore? Mo Ying laughed mockingly. However, he no longer mocked and ridiculed. Instead, he waved his hands. Strands of black fog immediately gathered in his hands, and finally turned into a crow. Go. Find that guy. Mo Ying's right hand loosened. The crow formed by the black fog spread its wings and flew towards the clear void valley disciples below. After circling above for a while, it actually let out a cry and flew towards an unremarkable group of people. Finally, it stopped on the head of an unremarkable tall disciple. Senior brother? The short disciple beside Zhuowen looked at Zhuowen with some astonishment. The crow released from Mo Ying's hand had stopped on Zhuowen's head. Although the short disciple completely did not understand the situation, he also knew that the senior brother beside him, who he was familiar with most likely, did not do anything good in the valley. Otherwise, it would not have attracted the pursuit of Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Gazes gathered on Zhuowen's body. These gazes were filled with confusion, doubt, gloating and various other emotions. Hee, I've said it before. You can't escape from my palm. Die for me and hand over the treasure. Mo Ying laughed cruelly. With a step, he instantly arrived above Zhuowen. With a press of his right hand, countless black fog transformed into a huge black palm and pressed down on Zhuowen. It's over. This junior brother is finished. I don't know what kind of enmity he has with Mo Ying to make him personally attack. Chapter 899. White Brow Heavenly Sovereign released. Zhuowen's aura was clearly only that of an ultimate three-wheel emperor. While Mo Ying was a top genius of Yin City and an expert of the Xuanzun realm, they were on completely different levels, so everyone looked at Zhuowen with pity. Zhuowen raised his head slightly, his long hair swaying in the wind. With a flick of his finger, the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed appeared in his hand once more. Zhuowen's cultivation had yet to recover. If he wanted to use the power of the Xuanzun realm, he could only rely on the Buddhist energy within the demonic Buddha Bodhi seed. Great Sun Nirvana Fate. With a low shout, a golden light burst forth. Zhuowen transformed into a four-headed, eight-armed figure. His body continued to expand until he was 100 feet tall. Break! A thunderous voice rang out from Zhuowen's mouth, shooting straight into the clouds. His 8 arms struck out at the same time, carrying a terrifying might as they smashed towards the black palm. Bang! When the two collided, gold and black spread and exploded, dyeing the empty space in a strange gold and black color. Countless hurricanes swept out, causing the ground to crack like a ravine. Zui Qingfeng's complexion changed slightly. He stomped his foot and waved his right hand. A powerful wave of elemental energy shot out, pushing the nearby clear void valley disciples away from the range of Mo Ying and Zhuowen's attacks. Boom! An explosive sound rang out. Soon after, everyone was shocked to discover that the demonic shadow's black palm had actually been annihilated. As for Zhuowen, who had transformed into a 300-meter-tall giant, he was forced to retreat dozens of steps. Every step he took caused the ground to tremble violently. Go! Zhuowen shouted. His 100-feet-tall figure instantly shrank. Then, 3 pairs of lightning wings unfurled on his back. He turned into a bolt of lightning and shot towards the dense forest. Want to leave? Not a chance. The demon shadow's gaze was sinister as he shouted coldly and chased after Zhuowen. He hadn't expected Zhuowen to be able to resist his attack, even though his opponent's aura was clearly only at the level of an ultimate three-wheel emperor. This was truly inconceivable. It wasn't just Mo Ying. Even the disciples of the clear void valley on the ground had their mouths agape. Their faces were filled with disbelief. An ultimate three-wheel emperor-level disciple of their clear void valley actually had the strength to resist Mo Ying. This was truly too shocking. The one who was most surprised was the short disciple. He knew the tall disciple very well. But now the tall disciple had displayed such a powerful strength that he was dumbfounded. When did senior brother become so powerful? The short disciple muttered to himself with a complicated look in his eyes. Zui Qifeng, on the other hand, had a calm face. He turned into a ray of light and followed behind Mo Ying. Even though Zui Qingfeng was somewhat astonished by Zhuowen's powerful strength, In any case, Zhuowen's identity was now a disciple of their clear void valley. Therefore, Zue Qingfeng felt embarrassed to make a move in front of so many junior brothers. An ultimate three-wheel emperor-level cultivator is able to resist the demon shadow of the Xuanzuan realm. This person must have relied on the unique treasure he obtained from the stone cave to accomplish this. Zue Qingfeng muttered to himself. Zue Qingfeng muttered to himself in a low voice, his eyes blazing. He knew that if his theory was correct, then the heavenly treasure would be extremely powerful. I, Zue Qingfeng, will definitely obtain this unique treasure at all costs. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 figures instantly swept across the dense forest and arrived above the open space where Wan Lingyu, Xiaoyan Pu, and the others had set up camp. Let's see where you're going to run off to. I've never seen anyone escape from me, Mo Ying. Mo Ying's cold voice resounded through the open space. It was like rolling thunder that constantly reverberated in the ears of Xiaoyan Pu and the others. What? It's actually the monstrous genius of the Celestial Peak Devil Palace, Missouri Ying? Who's that fleeing person in front of us? He actually provoked Mo Ying to chase after him? Lung Ying leapt to her feet. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. The others' expressions were similar to Lung Ying's. They all raised their heads to look at the sky. Sure enough, they saw Mo Ying shrouded in black fog, and Zhuowen with 3 wings on his back several hundred meters in front of Mo Ying. Isn't that the middle-aged man who barged into the dense forest up ahead? Why is he wearing the Clear Void Valley's disciple uniform? Seeing Zhuowen's 3 pairs of lightning wings, many people in the open space recalled the sallow-faced middle-aged man who had barged into the Clear Void Valley without permission. Moreover, because Zhuowen was very far away from the open space, many people were unable to see Zhuowen's face. They could only see his back. This was also why they unanimously believed that the figure was a middle-aged man. Xiaoyan Pu's gaze slightly darkened. Those 3 pairs of lightning wings were not unfamiliar to him. Wasn't that the secret escape technique Zhuowen used? Xiaoyan Pu knew that the person being chased by Mo Ying was definitely Zhuowen. What a reckless fellow. He actually provoked Mo Ying. Now he's dead for sure. Xiaoyan Pu's gaze slightly shifted as he sneered in a low voice. Whoosh. Another figure flitted across the open space. This person was wearing a cyan robe with a jade-colored wine gourd hanging from his waist. His long hair was draped over his shoulders. Isn't this person Zue Qingfeng from the Clear Void Valley? Like Mo Ying, he's also in the top 5 of the Flame God list. Could it be that he's also chasing after that person? Zue Qingfeng flashed across the open space and immediately attracted the attention of the people in the open space. After recognizing Zue Qingfeng, the uproar in the open space became even more intense than before. Xiaoyan Pu was also unable to remain calm. What exactly did Zhuowen do to actually provoke 2 of the top 5 geniuses of Yin City, Zue Qingfeng and Mo Ying, to chase after him at the same time? If this matter were to spread to Yin City, it would definitely cause a sensation. This Mo Ying's speed is actually so fast. Even if I use the 6 wings of wind and thunder, I still can't shake him off? Zhuowen's brows slightly knitted as his gaze slightly darkened. This Mo Ying's cultivation technique should be related to speed. This person's speed can be considered relatively fast in the Xuanzuan realm. Even though your 6 wings of wind and thunder is pretty fast, it's a pity that it's incomplete and can't display its true power. Xiaohei arrived on Zhuowen's shoulder and said lightly, "Then what should I do? Being chased by this Mo Ying is not a solution." Zhuowen said somewhat anxiously, "Boy, take out the nascent soul of that old dog by May. This dragon lord will help you escape." Xiaohei rolled his eyes and suddenly said, although he was puzzled in his heart, Zhuowen still followed Xiaohei's instructions. With a flick of his right hand, the nascent soul of the Bai Mei Heavenly Master immediately appeared in Zhuowen's hand. "Zhuowen, you damned fellow. How long are you going to seal my nascent soul?" The moment the nascent soul of the Bai Mei Heavenly Master was taken out, he cursed at Zhuowen. "Xiaohei, what should I do next?" Zhuowen ignored the Bai Mei Heavenly Master and stared at Xiaohei. A sinister smile appeared on Xiaohei's face as he chuckled. Even though that old dog Bai Mei Heavenly Master's physical body has been destroyed, the strength of this nascent soul is still pretty good. At the very least, It can display the strength of a supreme being. Let that old dog deal with the MOing. You intend to release the seal on the Bai Mei Heavenly Master? Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he asked somewhat awkwardly. He knew that if he did that, the Bai Mei Heavenly Master would be the first to deal with Zhuowen. At that time, he would be in a bad situation. That's why this Dragon Lord wants to personally train him. A lewd smile appeared on Xiao Hei's face, causing the Bai Mei Heavenly Master, who was being held in Zhuowen's hand, to feel a chill run down his spine. I'm telling you, Zhuowen, if you dare touch me, I won't let you off in the future. The Bai Mei Heavenly Master shouted coldly. Idiot! Zhuowen could not be bothered with Celestial Master Whitebrow. Instead, he handed him over to Blackie. Blackie chuckled and stretched out his little paw. A wisp of black mist spread out and entered the ball of light. Then, it flew toward Celestial Master Whitebrow's nascent soul. Whitebrow Heavenly Venerable roared. He knew that the black mist was definitely not something good. He quickly hid in the ball of light and did not let it get close. Unfortunately, Whitebrow Heavenly Venerable's nascent soul power had been sealed and he was powerless. In the end, he was still invaded by the black mist. Zhuowen, I must kill you, I must. The Bai Mei Heavenly Master's eyes suddenly turned incomparably black, and he kept shouting that he wanted to kill Zhuowen. Kid, remove the seal on the white-browed old dog's body. Blackie smirked. Air. Looking at the Bai Mei Heavenly Master who was clamoring to kill Zhuowen, Zhuowen's head was full of black lines. This fellow was talking about killing him. Zhuowen. Was it really okay to release the seal now? Don't worry, this Bai Mei Heavenly Master won't attack you. Xiao Hei said again. Although Zhuowen felt that Xiao Hei's words were a little unreliable, he could only trust him for now. Then, he pointed his right hand at the ball of light, and the seal that he had placed on the Bai Mei Heavenly Master's nascent soul was immediately released. Boom! A terrifying aura spread out. It was the pressure of a Heavenly Master. Although the Bai Mei Heavenly Master's physical body had been destroyed, and he was only left with his nascent soul, he was still a Heavenly Master after all. His former power naturally still existed. Once the seal on the Bai Mei Heavenly Master was released, Zhuowen hurriedly hid far away like a mouse that had seen a cat. What a strong aura. This aura is comparable to the Palace Masters. Could there be a Heavenly Master nearby? Mo Ing, who was originally chasing behind, naturally felt the terrifying aura from the Bai Mei Heavenly Master. He paused, and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. Ah, Zhuowen, I must kill you today. I must tear you into pieces and let you die a horrible death. A roar filled with hatred came from the ball of light in front of him. Then, the ball of light continued to expand, and finally became as tall as a person. At a glance, there was an old man with white hair and a white beard in the ball of light. However, this old man's eyes were pitch black, and he looked exceptionally strange. Mo Ying's body trembled. He naturally felt the pressure that was like heaven's might from before. It was naturally emitted from the old man in the ball of light in front of him. Senior, I did not mean to offend you. Our target is that guy. Please forgive me and let me pass. Mo Ying cupped his hands politely, and his eyes were filled with fear. Zhuowen, do you think I don't recognize you? Even if you turn into ashes, I will know that you are Zhuowen. Die. The Bai Mei Heavenly Master's pitch-black eyes stared straight at Mo Ying, causing the latter's hair to stand on end. Was this old man crazy? What Zhuowen or Zhuowen? He did not know this person at all. Senior, you might have mistaken me for someone else. I am Mo Ying, not the Zhuowen you speak of, Mo Ying said politely again. Bastard, I will recognize you even if you turn into ashes. Today I want you to die. Die. Chapter 900. Joining hands. Mo Ying's eyes were extremely gloomy, especially when he saw Heavenly Venerate Whitebrow rushing over. His heart sank to the bottom. After all, Mo Ying was a monstrous genius of the Celestial Peak Demon Palace. Naturally, he was knowledgeable. He could tell at a glance that the old man before him wasn't a true Heavenly Venerate, but a Heavenly Venerate's nascent soul. However, even a Heavenly Venerate's nascent soul could unleash more power than his Xuanzuan realm. Therefore, Mo Ying was very cautious. What's the origin of that guy? He even has a heavenly venerate's nascent soul? After the shock, Emoing was even more puzzled. He was even more puzzled about the origin of Zhuowen, who was standing behind heavenly venerate Whitebrow. Boom! A muffled sound reverberated in the sky. Heavenly venerate Whitebrow arrived in an instant. He stretched out his skinny palm, and terrifying yuan power filled the air. It turned into an endless gale that strangled Emoing. Demonic shadow world. Emoing roared and split into thousands of clones. His speed soared to the extreme as he retreated. Bang! 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 After all, Heavenly Venerate Whitebrow was once a Heavenly Venerate. Although he was only a nascent soul now, he still had the might of a Heavenly Venerate. He was much stronger than Emoing. Seeing Emoing split into thousands of clones, Heavenly Venerate Whitebrow flipped his right hand. The gale gathered around his palm turned into thousands of wisps, and shot towards Emoying's clones. In the blink of an eye, Emoying's clones were annihilated under the attack of the gale. Only his real body was left, which turned around and retreated. Zhuo Wen's eyes flickered as he stared at the white-browed Heavenly Venerate, who had unleashed his might, not far behind the white-browed Heavenly Venerate. His heart was filled with doubt. From the white-browed Heavenly Venerate's performance, it seemed that he had mistaken the demonic shadow for Zhuo Wen. Xiaohei, what did you do to Whitebrow Heavenly Lord just now? Zhuo Wen suddenly asked Little River, who was still laughing mischievously on his shoulder. Xiaohei chuckled and said, I just did something to the old dog's nascent soul. At this moment, the old dog won't even notice our existence. Besides us, anyone who appears in front of him will be treated as the person he hates the most, which is you, Zhuowen. Zhuowen rubbed his nose. Looking at Celestial Master Whitebrow's behavior just now, Zhuowen could feel his intense hatred for him. This hatred even made Zhuowen's heart palpitate a little. Moreover, Zhuowen had a new understanding of Xiaohei's methods. Although Xiaohei was sometimes unreliable, the methods she occasionally used were rather practical and powerful. Whoosh! At this moment, Zui Qifeng also arrived and landed beside Emoying. When he saw Emoying's somewhat miserable appearance, he couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise in his eyes. You're in such a sorry state, because of an ultimate three-wheel Emperor Realm cultivator? Zui Qingfeng said meaningfully. Bullshit. Zui Qingfeng, take a look at that old man in front of us. Emoing couldn't help but be angered by Zui Qingfeng's words. He pointed his right hand at Whitebrow Heavenly Lord and shouted. After Emoying's reminder, Zui Qingfeng's gaze also landed on Whitebrow Heavenly Lord. At the same time, he also noticed Zhuowen behind Whitebrow Heavenly Lord, who was still calm and composed. Heavenly Lord Realm Expert. Zui Qingfeng's pupil shrank as he felt the powerful aura from Whitebrow Heavenly Lord. To be more precise, it should be the nascent soul of a Heavenly Lord Realm Expert. Although his aura is terrifying, his strength should only be around the Supremacy Realm. Zui Qifeng, this person has many tricks up his sleeve. Not only did he seize the Stone Cave's treasure, he also has a Heavenly Lord nascent soul. This person can't be a disciple of your Clear Void Valley. And looking at this person's appearance, there should be a lot of good things in his spirit ring. Let's join forces and take him down. How about we split the loot 50-50? Emoing stared at Whitebrow Heavenly Lord warily, and secretly transmitted his voice to Zui Qingfeng beside him. Heavenly Lord Nascent Soul? This person's wealth is really not small. However, the dignified evildoer of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace actually wants to join forces with me. Weren't you very arrogant before? Why have you become so timid now? Zui Qingfeng narrowed his eyes and lightly mocked. He stepped forward and placed his hands behind his back. His gaze passed Whitebrow Heavenly Lord and landed on Zhuowen. He asked indifferently, Who exactly are you? I think that with so many tricks up your sleeve, it's unlikely that you're a disciple of my Clear Void Valley, right? Zhuowen smiled faintly. His face slowly squirmed and returned to his original appearance. He smiled and said, I think your Clear Void Valley can't produce someone as bold as me, right? Humph. You're indeed bold. Since you know that I'm from the Clear Void Valley, you should know the power of the Clear Void Valley in Yen City, right? Now I'll give you a chance. Hand over your spirit ring, and tie your hands to return to the Clear Void Valley. Perhaps our sect master will be lenient and spare your life. Zui Qingfeng said arrogantly. Zhuowen sneered and said, "You want me to hand over my spirit ring and tie my hands to return to the clear void valley with you? I say, Zui Qingfeng, you're an influential figure in Yin City, a monstrous genius of the clear void valley. Why do you have a pig's brain? If you were me, would you agree to this request?" Zui Qingfeng's gaze was dark. He said coldly, "You have guts. You clearly know that we're from the clear void valley, yet you still dare to be so unbridled. I really don't know where your courage comes from." "Where's my courage coming from?" "Xiao He, let this arrogant Zui Qingfeng experience our courage," Zhuowen suddenly said to Xiao He. "Hee, of course. This Zui Qingfeng is too arrogant. This dragon lord doesn't like looking at him." Xiao He grinned. With a wave of his little paw, a ray of light shot out and entered the white-brow Empyrean's forehead. This caused the white-brow Empyrean's eyes to become even more terrifying. "Zhuowen, you little bastard, I'll definitely kill you. Die." The white-brow Empyrean seemed to have gone mad as he rushed towards Zui Qingfeng. Terrifying elemental energy exploded, wanting to completely kill Zui Qingfeng. Clear void sword technique, sect returning swords. Zui Qingfeng's eyebrows twitched. He pointed the sword fingers of his right hand, and countless sword shadows condensed in the air. Then, these sword shadows merged into one, and turned into a gigantic sword light that was several hundred feet long. It slashed down from the sky. Scram! The white-brow Empyrean's black eyes were filled with killing intent. With a low shout, his hands formed into claws and pushed upwards. A pair of huge eagle claws met the wind and heavily smashed onto the gigantic sword light. Kacha! The gigantic sword light seemed to be extremely powerful, but it only lasted for 3 breaths of time under the eagle claws. Then, under Zui Qingfeng's horrified gaze, it completely shattered. With a muffled groan, Zui Qingfeng retreated again and again until he was several hundred meters away. His eyes were extremely gloomy. Although the white-brow Empyrean sovereign's body had been destroyed, he was still a nascent soul cultivator. Zui Qingfeng was no match for him at all. Die! The white-brow Empyrean spread out his claws and turned into a gust of wind. Zhuowen rushed towards Zui Qingfeng without any regard for his own safety. That terrifying gust of wind almost tore the surrounding space apart. Zui Qingfeng's expression changed greatly. He hurriedly shouted at Mo Ying, who was not far away. "Mo Ying, why don't you join forces to deal with this old fellow? Don't you want that rare treasure on that person's body? With just our strength alone, it'll be difficult to spit out this old fellow's defensive line." Mo Ying's lips suddenly curled into a mocking smile. He smiled faintly and said, "The great clear void valley disciple Zui Qingfeng, weren't you very arrogant just now? Why are you asking me for help now?" Hearing this, Zui Qingfeng almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. This Mo Ying was clearly taking revenge on Zui Qingfeng for mocking him just now. Boom boom boom. The white-brow Empyrean seemed to have gone mad. He attacked Zui Qingfeng without any regard for his life. Terrifying elemental energy exploded, causing the surrounding space to become slightly unstable. As for Zui Qingfeng, he was unable to speak. His cultivation was only in the Xuanzuan realm. How could he be a match for the white-brow Empyrean? If not for his battle prowess far surpassing that of ordinary Xuanzuan realm cultivators, he would have already been killed by the white-brow Empyrean. However, even so, Zui Qingfeng was still fiercely suppressed. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face became incomparably pale. Especially when he saw Mo Ying, who was watching the show from the side, he shouted angrily, "Mo Ying, if you don't come to help, I, Zui Qingfeng, will immediately turn around and leave. You can face this old fellow alone." Mo Ying also knew that there must be a limit to what he could do. He nodded, took a step forward, and came to Zui Qingfeng's side. He spat out a palm, and a force of black mist spread out and blasted towards the white-brow Empyrean. Bang! When Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng joined forces, their power instantly surpassed the previous one. They actually managed to force the white-brow Empyrean to retreat. "Don't hold back. Let's end this quickly. With the strength of the two of us, fighting against a supreme stage Empyrean nascent soul cultivator is a piece of cake." Mo Ying said coldly. He waved his right hand, and the black mist on the surface of his body suddenly tumbled and surged into his right hand. At the same time, the black mist dissipated, revealing Mo Ying's true appearance. Mo Ying was dressed in black, and his face was as pale as snow. His eyes were filled with a scarlet color and emitted a bloodthirsty glow. The black mist gathered in Mo Ying's palm and turned into a black longsword that was about 10 feet long. This longsword was surrounded by a strange black mist, and it looked extremely strange. Zui Qingfeng nodded. He patted his waist with his right hand, and the jade wine gourd hanging from his waist suddenly expanded to about 10 feet in size. Then, he pulled out the cork with his right hand, and a faint blue liquid gushed out from the gourd, turning into a huge water python around him. Kill! The two of them shouted in unison. Mo Ying waved the black longsword in his right hand, and a huge black sword shadow suddenly appeared in the void. It cut through the air and mercilessly slashed towards the white-brow Empyrean. Zui Qingfeng formed a seal with both hands, and the huge water python followed behind the black longsword. It spat out its scarlet tongue and rushed towards the white-brow Empyrean at the same time. Rumble! The white-brow Empyrean shouted. He flipped his hands and raised them up. Terrifying yuan power poured out, turning into two huge eagle claws, and met the attack. Chapter 901. Defeat Zui Qingfeng, and Mo Ying also revealed a trace of joy. The two of them were the top geniuses of Yin City, and their fighting strength was naturally extraordinary. The fighting strength that they could unleash after joining forces had exceeded their expectations. Kid, our Heaven Peak Devil Palace will give you a chance. As long as you hand over your spirit ring and unique treasure, we will let you leave this place safely. How about it? Although Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng were able to suppress Whitebrow Heavenly Master for a while, it would take them a lot of time to completely defeat him. During this time, Zhuowen could easily escape. Therefore, Mo Ying's tone slowed down. Zhuowen suddenly smiled and said sarcastically, I should be the one saying that. Oh, what do you mean? The current situation is already very clear. This exalted celestial Yuanying cannot do anything to the two of us. But you must know that you are alone, while the two of us have the support of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace and the Clear Void Valley. Offending us is not a wise choice. Mo Ying frowned. Zhuowen shook his head again. Suddenly, he flicked his finger, and a palm-sized ball of light appeared in his palm. This ball of light also had a little person inside. It was actually another Heavenly Master's nascent soul. Zhuowen, it really is you, kid. How long are you going to seal me? The little person in the ball of light stared at Zhuowen and roared. Heavenly Master Yellow Serpent. Don't worry, I will let you out now. After saying that, Zhuowen gave Xiaohei a look. Xiaohei understood. He extended his little claws and grabbed Empyrean Huang Jiao's head. A dark black energy entered the space between his eyebrows. Empyrean Huang Jiao didn't even make a sound. His eyes became as dark as Empyrean Huang Jiao's. What? This guy has a Heavenly Master's nascent soul? How is that possible? Where did he get a Heavenly Master's nascent soul? Mo Ying's expression stiffened. His expression had already become extremely unsightly. There were only two Heavenly Venerables in their Celestial Peak Devil Palace. Previously, when Zhuowen took out Whitebrow Empyrean nascent soul, he was already extremely shocked. But now, this Zhuowen was like magic, taking out another Empyrean nascent soul. This method was too heaven-defying. After all, if these two Heavenly Venerate nascent souls had not been destroyed, they would be Heavenly Venerates with monstrous strength. They would be considered all-powerful existences in Yin City. However, they had now appeared in the hands of a mere third-wheel ultimate emperor stage cultivator. If the demonic shadow knew that Zhuowen didn't just have two Empyrean nascent souls, but 5, who knew what sort of expression the demonic shadow would have? Zui Qingfeng was also shocked. Their Clear Void Valley did not have many Heavenly Venerables. They were on par with the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace. The shock in his heart was no less than Mo Ying's. Go! After Zhuowen opened the seal on Empyrean Yellowbone, Empyrean Yellowbone naturally had the same reaction as Whitebrow Empyrean. He cursed Zhuowen as a son of a bitch and charged towards Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng. Seeing Whitebrow Empyrean Yellowbone and Empyrean Yellowbone cursing him while mercilessly attacking Zui Qingfeng, and Moing. Zhuowen couldn't help but feel strange. Boom boom boom. With the addition of Empyrean Yellowbone, the battle instantly turned upside down. Moing and Zue Qingfeng, who were originally suppressing Whitebrow Empyrean Yellowbone, were completely defeated. Both of them were in an extremely difficult situation. Puchi, Puchi. Two muffled groans sounded. Moing and Zue Qingfeng both spat out mouthfuls of blood and were sent flying. Go! Moing and Zue Qingfeng shouted and flew in the direction they were sent flying. They turned into two rays of light and tried to escape. Where do you think you're going? Zhuowen, you must leave your life behind today. Whitebrow Empyrean Yellowbone and Empyrean Yellowbone roared and chased after Zue Qingfeng and Moing. Their speed wasn't slow either, and they caught up with Moing and Zue Qingfeng in an instant. Empyrean Yellowbone's right hand clasped Moying's right arm, wanting to completely detain him. Scram! Moing roared and waved the black longsword in his right hand. Countless black rays shot towards Empyrean Yellowbone's forehead. Empyrean Yellowbone's eyes were cold. He pressed down with his right hand, and his elemental energy turned into a vortex that blocked in front of him. The black rays were directly crushed by the vortex. You can't escape. I won't be at ease if you don't die. Empyrean Yellowbone sneered. His eyes were filled with a cruel light. His other hand clawed at Moying's head. The elemental energy contained in this claw was extremely terrifying. If Moing didn't dodge, he would be seriously injured even if he didn't die. Unfortunately, Moying's right arm was now clasped by Empyrean Yellowbone. It wouldn't be easy for him to completely escape Empyrean Yellowbone's grasp. Damn it! You remember this. Moing roared and swung the black longsword in his left hand. With a poochie sound, Moying's right arm was cut off. Then, Moing let out a miserable howl and turned into a black shadow that disappeared into the horizon. Zue Qingfeng was in an even more sorry state than Moing. He was basically unable to resist Whitebrow Empyrean Yellowbone's attack. Naturally, Zue Qingfeng also noticed Moying's miserable howl. When he saw Moing cut off his right arm in order to escape, Zue Qingfeng's face turned extremely ugly. He knew that once Moing escaped, Empyrean Yellowbone would definitely join forces with Whitebrow Empyrean Yellowbone to hunt him down. At that time, it would really be difficult for him to escape. Whitebrow Empyrean Yellowbone took advantage of Zue Qingfeng's distraction and slammed his palm into Zue Qingfeng's chest, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood and fly backwards. You remember this. Our Clairvoyant Valley will not let you off. Zue Qingfeng glared fiercely at Zhuowen in the distance. Then, he took out a jade leaf from his bosom. Waves of green light wrapped around Zue Qingfeng. Then, Zue Qingfeng turned into a wisp of illusory wind and disappeared on the spot. That was teleportation? Seeing Zue Qingfeng disappear thousands of miles away in an instant, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed, and he muttered in a low voice. Zhuowen, let's see where you can run to. Empyrean Yellowbone and Whitebrow Empyrean Yellowbone roared at the same time. They actually planned to chase after Zue Qingfeng, who was escaping. Come back! Xiaohe coldly snorted and waved his little paw. Empyrean Yellowbone and Empyrean Yellowbone both hugged their heads and struggled in pain, as if they were enduring intense pain. Boy, seal these two guys again. This dragon lord can't control them for too long, Xiaohe said to Zhuowen solemnly. Nodding, Zhuowen instantly arrived in front of Empyrean Yellowbone and Empyrean Yellowbone. The two of them were enduring some kind of intense pain and didn't notice Zhuowen's approach at all. Zhuowen pointed his hands at the space between their eyebrows. Wisps of sealing power spread out, and the two of them were sealed in a ball of light by Zhuowen. Inside the ball of light, Celestial Venerate Whitebrow and Celestial Venerate Huangjiao had also regained their clarity of mind. They noticed that something was amiss and glared at Zhuowen as they said coldly, Zhuowen, what did you do to us just now? Zhuowen couldn't be bothered with the two of them. He stuffed Empyrean Yellowbone into his spirit ring and lifted Empyrean Yellowbone in his hand, continuously absorbing the surging energy from Empyrean Yellowbone. Zhuowen had consumed a lot of energy from being chased by Moing and Zue Qingfeng, so he needed to replenish his energy. Empyrean Yellowbone naturally became Zhuowen's replenishment elixir. Empyrean Yellowbone screamed in the ball of light, trying to stop Zhuowen from absorbing his nascent soul energy. But it was useless. Pitiful Empyrean Whitebrow. Not only did he have to become Zhuowen's scapegoat and fight in Zhuowen's place, but after the battle was over, Zhuowen would deprive him of the strength of his nascent soul, so that he could recover and cultivate. However, Empyrean Yellowbone asked for it. After all, he had schemed to kill Zhuowen, so Zhuowen naturally wouldn't be polite to him. After the Yuan power in his body had almost recovered, Zhuowen stuffed Empyrean Yellowbone's nascent soul into his spirit ring and disappeared into the dense forest. Now that Zhuowen had obtained the spirit ring, Zhuowen should be able to completely recover his strength in a short period of time by relying on the resources in the spirit ring. After recovering his strength, Zhuowen planned to go to Yen City and see if he could find a way to Jiaxin Academy. Now, what Zhuowen needed to do was find a secluded place to start a retreat to recover his strength. Suddenly, a heart-wrenching scream rang out in the sky above Xiaoyanpu and the others. Xiaoyanpu and the others were startled and looked towards the source of the scream. Swoosh! Emoing flew out from above Xiaoyanpu and the others. Fresh blood flowed down from the wound on his right arm, filling the air with a pungent smell of blood. That's Emoing from Heaven Peak Devil Palace. He seems to have lost an arm, and his injuries are very serious. Someone on the empty ground suddenly spoke, a trace of disbelief in his voice. Emoing was extremely famous in Yen City. There were very few existences among the younger generation who could fight against him. Only an expert from the older generation could seriously injure Emoing. It must have been done by the person that Emoing was chasing. Who exactly is that person? He's actually so terrifying that even Emoing lost an arm. Discussions broke out in the crowd, while Xiaoyanpu's face darkened. He knew the identity of the person that Emoing was chasing. It was Zhuowen, who had snatched his spirit ring from him. However, Zhuowen was clearly only at the ultimate three-wheel emperor stage. How did he manage to injure Emoing to such an extent? Swoosh! Before the crowd could react, a gust of wind appeared near the empty ground. Then, Zui Qingfeng's miserable figure landed near Xiaoyanpu and the others. Ugh! Zui Qingfeng spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale as he knelt on the ground with one knee. His breathing was shallow and hurried. Eldest senior brother? The Clear Void Valley disciples guarding the entrance of the forest naturally recognized Zui Qingfeng's miserable figure. They all helped him up, their eyes filled with worry. I'm fine. Help me into the valley. There are too many people here. Zui Qingfeng said in a low voice. Then, he led the Clear Void Valley disciples away. Looking at the heavily injured Zui Qingfeng, the shock on Xiaoyanpu and the others' faces became even more intense. They never thought that even Zui Qingfeng would be in such a sorry state. Chapter 902. Search. At this moment, the battle between Demon Taoist and Qing Su had already stopped. The two of them were quietly facing each other. Demon Taoist held the demon sword with a cold expression. His aura was as stable as before. On the other hand, Qing Su was in a sorry state. His aura was slightly chaotic. It was obvious that Demon Taoist had the upper hand in their battle. Qing Su, is there still a need to fight? It's basically impossible for you to take the demon Bodhi tree from my hands. Demon Taoist said coldly. Qing Su took a deep breath and said coldly, Demon Taoist, you've gone too far. I won't let this matter rest. Demon Taoist sneered. He was very clear about Qing Su's character. Even though he was at a disadvantage in the battle, he still wanted to cover up his failure. He was a hypocrite who cared about his reputation. Whoosh! A sound of breaking air rang out. Then, Emoing arrived beside Demon Taoist in a sorry state. His face was extremely pale. Qing Su and Demon Taoist naturally noticed Emoying's sorry state. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Didn't Emoying and Zui Qingfeng go to the valley to find the source of the black light pillar? Why was Emoying in such a sorry state? Hehe, your Heavenly Peak Demon Palace's #1 genius is only so. He can't be compared to our Clear Void Valley's Zui Qingfeng. Qing Su's eyes were filled with pride. After seeing Emoying's sorry state, He instantly thought that Mo Ying's injuries were caused by Zui Qingfeng. In this area, other than Qing Su Zi and Demon Dao Zi, there was basically no one who was a match for Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng, the two monsters of Great Yin City. Since Mo Ying was injured so badly, perhaps only Zui Qingfeng had the ability to do so. Demon Daoist didn't answer. His right hand tapped on Mo Ying's right arm and instantly sealed several major acupoints. Then he sent out his palm energy, and a pitch-black energy entered Mo Ying's right arm. Ah! Mo Ying roared in pain. That pitch-black energy was Demon Daoist's demonic energy. When this energy entered his body, it was as painful as being bitten by thousands of ants. Even though Mo Ying's mind was firm, he was still tortured by this extreme pain and almost fainted. Endure the pain and don't faint. I will now reconstruct your right arm. If you faint, then all my previous efforts will be wasted. Master Demon said indifferently. The demonic shadow clenched his teeth and forcefully endured the pain. He only let out a low roar. Pritchie! At the wound on the demonic figure's right arm, strands of black veins squirmed continuously. Then with a tearing sound, a strange black arm grew out. His severed arm grew back. Qing Su's eyes narrowed as he looked at Master Demon with even more dread. Back in Yin City, Master Demon was a famous madman. In order to pursue great power, he entered the Tao with the devil. The side effects of entering the Tao as a demon were well known. If one was not careful and completely entered the Tao, they would become a great demon that had no consciousness and only knew how to kill. In the past, no one was optimistic about Master Demon's cultivation method. However, what happened later greatly exceeded everyone's expectations. Master Demon actually succeeded in entering the Tao as a demon. Moreover, he even controlled the thought of entering the Tao as a demon and grasped the powerful power of entering the Tao. Among the leaders of Yin City's four great sects, Demon Tao was the youngest. It had only been 30 years since his debut, but he was already on the same level as Qing Su Zi. In fact, his strength even surpassed Qing Su Zi. Ever since Master Demon grasped the power of entering the Tao, Qing Su became more and more unable to see through Master Demon. In any case, this severed arm growing back wasn't something that Qing Su could do himself. Many thanks, Palace Master. Looking at his right arm that had recovered to its original state, Mo Ying hurriedly bowed. His eyes were filled with passion and worship. Tell me, who did this to you? Master Demon asked indifferently with his hands behind his back. Actually, Demon Daoist also had some doubts in his heart. Mo Ying's strength wasn't weak, but to put Mo Ying in such a difficult situation wasn't something an ordinary person could do. Even Clearvoid Valley's Zui Qingfeng wouldn't be able to do it. Who else could it be? Of course it's our Qing Su Valley's Zui Qingfeng. Master Demon, do you think that there's another junior here who can pose a threat to Mo Ying aside from Zui Qingfeng? Qing Su coldly ridiculed. There was a trace of pride in his eyes. Just now, he had been reduced to such a sorry state by Master Demon. Now that he was able to get it back on a junior, it could be considered as getting back some face for Qing Su. At this moment, several Qing Su Valley's disciples were supporting a rather sorry figure as they walked into the valley. This sorry figure was Zui Qingfeng, who had fled for his life. After all, Zui Qingfeng had taken a direct hit from the Whitebrow Heavenly Sovereign's attack. His injuries weren't light. Although they weren't as serious as Mo Ying's severed arm, his internal injuries were quite serious. This caused Zui Qingfeng to be unable to stand steadily. Qingfeng. Qing Su's eyes widened. Naturally, he saw Zui Qingfeng, who was being supported by the Qing Su Valley's disciples. A trace of emotion appeared on his face. Qing Su, your Qing Su Valley's Zui Qingfeng doesn't seem to be any better. Why do you say that Mo Ying was injured by Zui Qingfeng? I think there's no difference between the two. Master Demon said indifferently. Mo Ying had an arm severed by Qingfeng. Even if he was seriously injured, the strength of your Heaven Peak Devil Palaces Mo Ying is clearly weaker than Qingfeng. Qing Su said indifferently. Master Demon frowned. Qing Su was right. To be able to sever Mo Ying's arm, logically speaking, Zui Qingfeng should have the upper hand. Otherwise, Mo Ying wouldn't have lost an arm. The truth isn't like that. Zui Qingfeng isn't qualified, nor does he have the strength to sever my right arm. Emoing suddenly snorted coldly. Then what happened? Master Demon asked with some interest. Hearing Master Demon Dao's question, Demon Shadow didn't hide anything and told him everything that happened just now in full detail. As for Master Demon and Master Qing Su, the more they heard, the more shocked they became. A three-wheel ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator was actually able to withstand Mo Ying's attack, and he even had 2 Empyrean nascent souls. In addition, the mysterious youth had also obtained an incredible treasure from beneath the Buddha Demon Bodhi tree. After listening to Mo Ying's description, Qing Suzi and Demon Daozi's interest was piqued. They had never heard of such a person in Yin City. Qingfeng, is what Emoing said true? Qing Su looked at Zui Qingfeng and asked. Zui Qingfeng nodded and didn't deny it. That youth definitely has some secrets on him. Master Demon, why don't you and I work together and search this forest? Perhaps we can find that mysterious youth. At that time, we can split the secrets we obtain. Master Qing Su suddenly threw out an olive branch to Master Demon. After hearing that the mysterious youth could take out 2 heavenly venerate Yuanying, Qing Su couldn't remain calm. A heavenly venerate Yuanying was a great supplement. If Qing Su could obtain a heavenly venerate Yuanying, his strength would definitely increase by leaps and bounds. Unfortunately, heavenly venerate experts were extremely powerful. Even Qing Su was only at the mid-heavenly venerate realm. He simply didn't have the ability to kill a heavenly venerate expert. Moreover, which heavenly venerate expert in Yin City didn't have a powerful background. It was even more impossible to kill one. Therefore, Qing Su was very clear about how rare a heavenly venerate Yuanying was. Therefore, Qing Su temporarily put aside his prejudice against Master Demon and invited him to search for the mysterious youth together. Demon Daozi's eyes flickered as he revealed a shocked expression. Demon Daozi didn't feel anything about that so-called unique treasure. After all, he had already obtained the Buddha Demon Bodhi tree. No matter how precious that unique treasure was, it couldn't be more precious than the Buddha Demon Bodhi tree. What he cared about was the heavenly venerate Yuanying. It was a fatal attraction to him. It could greatly shorten the time he needed to cultivate. After all, after one's cultivation reached the heavenly venerate realm, even if one was an extremely talented genius, it wasn't that easy to advance a small realm. If one didn't have any fortuitous encounters and just followed the prescribed path, it was unknown when one would be able to cultivate to the peak of the heavenly venerate realm. And from the peak of the heavenly venerate realm to the emperor realm, it was even more difficult. There were some geniuses who were trapped in the emperor realm for hundreds and thousands of years. When the day came, they would be stuck at the peak of the heavenly venerate realm and die unwillingly. After pondering for a moment, Master Demon nodded and said, "All right. However, this forest is too vast. Wanting to find a youth here is like looking for a needle in a haystack. I'm afraid it won't be that easy, right? The 2 of us are heavenly venerates. With our perception, we can completely search the entire forest in a short period of time. That mysterious youth can't have gone far. If the 2 of us are fast enough, we can definitely find him," Qing Su said with confidence. "In that case, we can give it a try." Then Master Demon said to Emoing, "You go back first. The injuries on your body are quite serious. It's not suitable for you to fight. Go back and recuperate." Emoing cupped his hands. He didn't hesitate in the slightest. He turned into a black shadow and left the forest. As for Zui Qifeng, under Qing Su's orders, he was taken away by several Clear Void Valley disciples who weren't weak. He returned to the sect to recuperate. As for the other Clear Void Valley disciples in the forest, they all left the forest under Qing Su's orders. As for Zhuowen's appearance and special aura, Zui Qingfeng and Emoing had already recorded it in the jade slips they carried with them. Therefore, the 2 of them weren't unfamiliar with Zhuowen's appearance and aura. Moreover, Emoing and Zui Qingfeng emphasized that the mysterious youth had a secret technique to change his appearance. It was very difficult to find him just by relying on his appearance. They had to combine it with Zhuowen's aura. "Let's go. Let's not waste any more time," Master Demon said indifferently. He walked in a direction, and used his enormous perception to sense whether or not the mysterious youth was hiding in the forest. If he found anyone suspicious, Master Demon would definitely be the first to act. Chapter 903. Buddha and Devil blend in one thought. The Clear Void Valley disciples have all retreated. What's going on up ahead? On the empty ground, Xiaoyan Pu and the others also saw the Clear Void Valley disciples guarding the entrance. After whispering a few words, they no longer blocked the path and left the area. Their faces were full of anxiety. Xiaoyan Pu and the others were full of confusion. They had waited on the empty ground for a few days and simply did not know what was going on up ahead. At this moment, they were even more confused. Since the Clear Void Valley disciples have all retreated, then we can also leave this place, Xiaoyan Pu said in a clear voice. Then, he came in front of the Ruan clan team, and specially cupped his hands in front of Ruan Lingyu. He said with a smile, "Miss Ruan, why don't you come with us to Yin City this time? This way we can take care of each other." Seeing Xiaoyan Pu's different attitude towards Ruan Lingyu, Commander Ruan, and the others revealed a trace of joy. The Xiaoyan clan was very powerful in Yin City. If Ruan Lingyu could get closer to Xiaoyan Pu, it would be very beneficial for the Ruan clan. However, Leng Ying's pretty face became even colder. Her beautiful eyes were filled with traces of jealousy. However, this jealousy was well hidden by Leng Ying. Ruan Lingyu slightly lowered her head and said with a light nod, "If young Master Xiaoyan doesn't mind the weak strength of my Ruan clan team, Lingyu will not object." It seems that Miss Ruan has agreed. Xiaoyan Pu's eyes revealed a joyful expression. He said with a clear voice, "Then let's set off now." Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, two sounds of something breaking through the air suddenly rang out. Soon after, two imposing figures appeared above Xiaoyan Pu and the others. Moreover, these two people faintly revealed an aura that actually stirred the surrounding space. It was as if the entire world was trembling because of these two people. What a terrifying aura. Who are these two people? Why are their auras so terrifying? Leng Ying looked up at the two people in the sky. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock. Heavenly Peak Devil Palace Master Mo Daozi, Clear Void Valley Master Qing Su. Xiaoyan Pu was experienced and knowledgeable. With a glance, he recognized the two figures that suddenly descended and could not help but cry out in surprise. And it was precisely these words from Xiaoyan Pu that caused a huge uproar in the group. No one had expected that these two people who had suddenly appeared were actually the true leaders of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace and the Clear Void Valley. Whether it was Demon Daozi or Qing Su, in the eyes of the majority of the warriors in Yin City, they were powerful and unreachable existences. In fact, in the hearts of many warriors, such overlords were simply unreachable. But now these two magnates were right in front of them, and from the looks of it, they seemed to be looking for something. "I am Xiaoyan Pu of the Xiaoyan aristocratic family. Greetings to the two lords." Xiaoyan Pu hurriedly stepped forward and bowed to Demon Daoist, and Qing Su as he cautiously said, "I didn't expect to meet someone from the Xiaoyan family here." Qing Su nodded at Xiaoyan Pu and said calmly. Master Demon was as indifferent as ever. He didn't even look sideways. Master Demon's attitude didn't cause any dissatisfaction. After all, Master Demon was infamous in Yin City. How could they dare to point fingers at Master Demon? "May I know the purpose of your visit?" Xiaoyan Pu bowed and continued. "He's not in this group," Master Demon said coldly. Qing Su nodded. He had just checked and found that Zhuoan wasn't in Xiaoyan Pu's group. However, Qing Su didn't leave. Instead, he waved his right hand, and a jade slip appeared in his palm. Chi! A ray of light shot out from the jade slip, and a portrait appeared on top of the jade slip. He asked Xiaoyan Pu and the others, "Have you seen this person? If anyone can provide me with clues, Qing Su Valley won't mistreat them." "It's Zhuoan?" A surprised voice rang out. Leng Ying and Ruan Lingyu were both staring at the portrait as they exclaimed in unison. Some of the people in the group who had seen Zhuoan before were also surprised. Obviously, they recognized the original owner of the portrait. You know this person?" Qing Su and Demon Daozi's expressions changed at the same time. Their gazes converged on Leng Ying and Ruan Lingyu. After all, These two women were the first to recognize him. At this moment, Xiaoyanpu also reacted. He also recognized the owner of the portrait. His eyes flickered, and no one knew what he was thinking. You say it. Master Demon pointed at Leng Ying. His voice was still cold. Leng Ying was shocked and quickly stood up. However, her heart was extremely nervous and in a mess. She didn't know why the two giants of Yen City were looking for Zhuowen. Could it be that Zhuowen's identity was extraordinary? If Zhuowen's identity was extraordinary, Leng Ying's heart was even more nervous. After all, her attitude towards Zhuowen wasn't good. If Zhuowen's identity was extraordinary, the Ruan family might not be able to help her when he came looking for trouble. Say it. Master Demon spat out another word. His voice was filled with an unquestionable tone. Leng Ying's delicate body trembled and she quickly said, "This Zhuowen is a youth that our Ruan family saved along the way. After our Ruan family stopped at this open space, Zhuowen disappeared without a trace. In fact, we are also looking for Zhuowen right now." Leng Ying naturally couldn't tell them about her snatching Zhuowen's spirit ring. She only gave a brief description of the situation. Master Demon's brows slightly knitted. After giving Leng Ying a cold glance, he stared at Wan Lingyu and asked, "Is this girl right?" Wan Lingyu's beautiful eyes flickered. She gritted her teeth and said, "Sister Leng Ying is right. Zhuowen disappeared without a trace last night. Even now, we still don't know where he went. It seems that Zhuowen is indeed not in this group. Master Demon, let's go search elsewhere. This time, we must capture this kid," Qing Su said to Master Demon. Master Demon nodded. Soon after, the two of them turned into two streaks of light and disappeared on the spot. They went to search elsewhere. After Qing Su and Master Demon left, the group let out a sigh of relief. However, they were even more puzzled in their hearts. They didn't know why the two overlords were looking for Zhuowen, who was merely an ultimate emperor realm cultivator. However, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that the two overlords were looking for Zhuowen for no good reason. After all, Qing Su had just said that he wanted to capture Zhuowen. Could it be that Zhuowen has some kind of treasure on him? He actually caused two overlords to search for him at the same time. Leng Ying's beautiful eyes flickered. She already had some guesses in her heart. Zhuowen's origin was unknown, and his identity was mysterious. Moreover, it seemed like he was being hunted down. Now that Master Demon and Qing Su had personally come to search for him, Leng Ying knew that Zhuowen must have something on him that made Master Demon and Qing Su envious. Otherwise, the two overlords wouldn't join forces to search for a mere ultimate emperor realm cultivator. Swoosh! A silhouette flew through the dense forest like a nimble monkey. It was abnormally agile. "There's a natural cave up ahead. It's well hidden. Kid, you can go there and cultivate during this period of time." Xiao Hei's voice sounded in Yi Xuan's ear. Zhuowen nodded and increased his speed. Before long, he arrived in front of the cave that Xiao Hei had mentioned. The cave was located at the bottom of a steep cliff. Moreover, there was a dense bush in front of the cave. If one didn't pay close attention, they wouldn't be able to discover the cave at all. This cave is indeed well hidden. It's very suitable for secluded cultivation. Zhuowen nodded when he arrived at the entrance of the cave. He was extremely satisfied with the hidden cave. After entering the cave, Zhuowen discovered that the cave was extremely deep. Moreover, it was slanted downwards. Could there be another world below this cave? After pondering for a moment, Zhuowen finally decided to go deeper into the cave. He wanted to see just what was at the end of the cave. Zhuowen soon arrived at the end of the cave. He soon discovered that there was another cave at the end of the cave. Moreover, this cave was exactly the same as the one under the demon Buddha Bodhi tree. Moreover, there was a statue at the center of this cave. Moreover, this statue's appearance was exactly the same as the one under the demon Buddha Bodhi tree. It was also the image of a young man. However, the only difference between this statue and the one in the cave was that one side of the statue wasn't covered in golden light, while the other side was covered in demonic shadows. Instead, the golden Buddha and black demonic shadows were intertwined in this statue. They blended together like water and milk, and appeared to be rather harmonious. Emptiness in a single thought. Buddha and demonic merge. Incarnation as ancient, Heavenly Tao as divine. A faint voice resounded in the cave. However, this statue was much more peaceful than the one in the cave. After the voice rang out, there wasn't any earth-shattering phenomenon like before. What's going on with this statue? Zhuowen stared at the statue in front of him suspiciously. Regardless of whether it was the statue from before or this one, they both gave him a strange feeling. It's actually him? Xiaohei's eyes narrowed as she softly muttered to herself. However, Xiaohei's voice was very soft. Zhuowen's attention was completely focused on the statue in front of him. Therefore, he didn't hear Xiaohei's words. Kid, there's a small indentation in between the statue's eyebrows. Didn't you obtain the demon Buddha Bodhi seed from the previous cave? Why don't you put it in and take a look? Suddenly, Xiaohei smiled at Zhuowen. Hearing this, Zhuowen did indeed notice that there was a small indentation in between the statue's eyebrows. After taking out the demon Buddha Bodhi seed from his spirit ring, Zhuowen realized that the size of the Bodhi seed was just right for the indentation between the statue's eyebrows. Could it be a coincidence? With his eyes flickering, Zhuowen slowly pressed the demon Buddha Bodhi seed into the indentation between the statue's eyebrows. Swoosh! At that moment, the Buddha shadow and demon shadow that blended together on the surface of the statue in front of Zhuowen suddenly became clear. Then, the statue's tightly shut eyes slowly opened. In those eyes there was the sun, the moon, the stars, the sky, and the earth. It was as though there was a world inside. Staring at the pair of eyes, Zhuowen was instantly immersed in them. He was stunned on the spot and didn't move at all, just like a statue. I wonder what this guy left behind. In ancient times, this guy was as famous as Emperor Wind Thunder, the arrogant guy. Chapter 904. The Fighting Buddha Demon Saint. The boundless sky, the cracked earth, the barren weeds, the decadent ruins, and the densely packed light spots in the air. When Zhuowen opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was the strange scene before him. Where is this? Looking at the strange scene before him, Zhuowen knitted his brows and the doubt in his eyes grew. He remembered that he was still in the underground cave. How did he end up in such a strange space? Boom! 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 Suddenly, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Zhuowen was caught off guard, and he staggered and almost fell to the ground. Two figures with heavenly might descended in the space. Zhuowen raised his head and looked at the two figures that suddenly descended. His eyes were filled with horror. Buddha and demon? Two huge figures. One was an ancient Buddha that was covered in golden light, and the other was a demon with demonic shadows lingering around him. One Buddha and one demon, they quietly faced each other in the void. The ancient Buddha was peaceful while the demon went berserk. Kill! The demon stomped his foot, and countless demonic chi burst out. Terrifying energy filled the air and caused the entire space to tremble. The demon instantly closed in on the ancient Buddha. He spat out his right palm, and the demonic chi turned into a huge demon hand that pressed down on the ancient Buddha. The ancient Buddha was still as serene as ever. His originally squinted eyes slowly opened. A pair of golden Buddha eyes stared indifferently at the demon above. His pair of Buddha palms were put together as he slowly faced the demon above. The Buddha's light was as bright as the sun. Boom! The demonic chi and the Buddha's force instantly clashed. Golden light and black light intertwined in the entire space and created a dazzling golden black color. The sky was no longer blue, and the earth was no longer brown. The golden black color had already filled the entire space. Looking around, there were no other colors. In the golden black light, the battle between the ancient Buddha and the demon instantly broke out. They fought from the sky to the ground, from the ground to the sky, and from the sky to the void. The Buddhist light and the demonic chi tangled with each other, neither giving way to the other. A terrifying power spread out, causing the sky to collapse, the earth to crack, and the entire space to disintegrate. Zhuowen was like an insignificant ant. He could only watch as the Buddha and the demon fought back and forth. They were too powerful. With a flip of their hands, the sky collapsed. With a flip of their hands, the earth cracked. This sort of horrifying power had Zhuowen shuddering in fear. At the same time, he had a strong desire for this sort of heavenly might. Even the heavens and earth had collapsed. This kind of power was simply unimaginable to Zhuowen in the past. It was too terrifying. The Buddha and the devil had boundless combat power, but no one could do anything to the other. This battle had lasted for so long that even the Buddha and the devil had forgotten about time. They were just fighting against each other mechanically. One thought to become a Buddha, another to become a devil. The Buddha and the devil cannot coexist, and the two thoughts will eventually turn to ashes. A sigh reverberated through the world. Following that, Zhuowen realized that the Buddha and the devil that were entangled in the void had all collapsed, turning into thumb-sized Bodhi seeds, one golden and one black. Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds? Looking at the Bodhi seeds that the Buddha and the devil had turned into, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. Naturally, he could recognize that this was the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds that he had obtained previously. Swoosh! An imposing figure suddenly darted out from a crack in the void. This person had delicate features and wore a white robe. He was a young bald monk. This monk put his palms together and looked at the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds that were floating in the air. He sighed softly and said, "The Buddha and the devil cannot coexist?" As he muttered softly, the bald monk moved his right hand and took the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds into his hand. His clear eyes had a solemn look. No one knew what he was thinking about. The Buddha and the devil cannot coexist? The bald monk looked at the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds quietly and motionlessly. Light flowed in his eyes. Just like that, 1 day, 1 year, 10 years, 100 years. He looked at the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds like a statue. Gradually, half of the bald monk's body turned golden and the other half demonic. The two colors of gold and black flickered and changed on both sides of his body. Finally, the bald monk's motionless body suddenly moved. He held the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds in his right hand and slowly pressed them between his eyebrows. Boom! The moment the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds were pressed between his eyebrows, the golden light and demonic shadows on both sides of the young monk's body trembled. Then, they surged into his forehead, and the young monk returned to his original state. His body no longer had the golden light and demonic shadows. Instead, it became spotless, like a lotus leaf that had emerged from the mud. However, the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds in between the young monk's eyebrows underwent a huge change. It turned into a strange eye that was half golden and half black. The golden light and black light flowed and changed in this eye. The Buddha and the devil eye appears. Haha. The young monk laughed loudly. The intersecting golden and black eye in between his eyebrows shot out a beam of golden and black light. It pierced through the sky and shattered the void. At the same time, not long after the young monk left, the space began to collapse. In the end, it turned into countless tiny dust particles. When Zhuowen came back to his senses, he looked at the statue in front of him and could not help but take a few steps back. At this moment, the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds in between the statue's eyebrows had undergone a huge change. It had turned into a golden and black eye. If one took a closer look, one would be able to see that the golden black eye contained a Buddha shadow and a demon shadow. Two stalwart figures were constantly clashing within the eye. It was a pair of destructive eyes that contained both the power of Buddha and the demon at the same time. Buddha and the devil eye? Is what happened in that space real? Zhuowen's eyes were filled with bewilderment. Whoosh! At this moment, Xiaohei also landed on Zhuowen's shoulder. Her small eyes were filled with excitement. She muttered softly, "It's the Buddha and the devil eye. He actually left the Buddha and the devil eye behind. Kid, your luck is here." "You know about the Buddha and the devil eye?" Zhuowen could not help but ask when he saw Xiaohei's expression. "I've only heard about it. In ancient times, there was a powerful Buddha and a demonic figure. The two were at odds with each other. Hence, a great war broke out. That war was so fierce that the sun and moon lost their light. Even the heavens collapsed. However, the strength of the Buddha and the demonic figure was similar. In the end, the Buddha and the demonic figure fell one after another and turned into the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds. Later on, the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds were obtained by a Buddhist expert. This person was extremely talented and had a strange way of thinking. He had always been pursuing the power of the Buddha and the demonic figure. In other words, the ultimate destructive power of the fusion of the Buddha and the demonic figure. In the end, after 1,000 years of comprehension, He refined the Buddha and the devil Bodhi seeds into the powerful Buddha and the devil eye. At this point, Xiao Hei's face revealed a tinge of admiration. It was obvious that he admired the Buddhist expert. Then who is that expert? Zhuowen knew that the Buddhist expert that Xiao Hei was talking about should be the young monk in the space. This person entered the path of the Buddha and the demonic figure, and gave birth to the Buddha and the devil eye. He could control the power of the Buddha and the demonic figure. He could even combine the power of the Buddha and the demonic figure to unleash a powerful force. This person was very famous in ancient times. His name was the Fighting Buddha Demon Saint. Kid. The Fighting Buddha Demon Saint was also a terrifying saint. He was as famous as Sir God Fenglai in ancient times. You should know that Sir God Fenglai possessed the holy symbol of Fenglai and had a unique advantage. However, the Fighting Buddha Demon Saint relied on his own comprehension of the Buddha and the devil eye to contend with Sir God Fenglai. This showed that he was extraordinary. The two of them could be considered as the rising stars of the ancient era. Many people even thought that they were peerless monsters who could ascend to the divine realm. However, the great calamity 10,000 years ago completely changed the fate of the monstrous geniuses of that era. Blackie sighed. Zhuowen's face revealed a shocked expression. He did not expect the young monk to have such a powerful background. From the title of the Fighting Buddha Demon Saint, he could tell that this person was extraordinary. Kid. Because of this statue, the Buddha and the demon Bodhi seed has been completely transformed into the Buddha demon eye. You don't need to refine it anymore. Now what you need to do is to transplant the Buddha demon eye into your glabella. If you succeed in the transplant, not only will your damaged sea of consciousness be completely restored, but you will also be able to control the power of the Buddha and the demonic figure. The benefits to you will be unimaginable. Zhuowen frowned and said with uncertainty, Xiao Hei, are you sure that the transplant of the Buddha demon eye won't be dangerous? Nonsense. Of course there will be danger. If the transplant fails, your sea of consciousness will be completely destroyed and will never be able to recover. Xiao Hei rolled his eyes and continued. However, it's a good thing that you have the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth on you. This thing has a very good protective effect for the transplant of the Buddha demon eye. It can greatly increase the success rate of the transplant. The Buddha and demon dual polarity earth can actually increase the success rate of the transplant of the Buddha demon eye? Zhuowen asked in surprise. As he spoke, a piece of soil that was a mixture of gold and black appeared in Zhuowen's hand. It was the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth that Zhuowen had obtained previously. Place the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth near the glabella of the statue in front of you. The power of the Buddha demon eye is very terrifying. Without the help of the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth, you won't be able to withstand it, Xiao Hei said indifferently. Nodding his head, Zhuowen held the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth in his right hand and used his yuan power to make the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth adhere to the surface of his palm. Then, he reached into the glabella of the statue. Rumble! A terrifying Buddha and demon force flowed out, causing Zhuowen's right hand to feel numb. However, Zhuowen also realized that the Buddha and demon dual polarity earth that adhered to the surface of his palm was like a soft sponge, dissolving the Buddha and demon force. To be more precise, it absorbed the Buddha and demon force. Come out! Grabbing the Buddha demon eye, Zhuowen pulled it back. Instantly, the Buddha demon eye was pulled out by him. The golden black light immediately filled the entire cave. At the same time, the Buddha and demon shadows intertwined and circled around the cave. Zhuowen spread out his right hand, and the strange eye of the Buddha and the demonic shadow appeared at the same time, quietly lying in the center of his palm. The pupil of this eye also emitted a strange golden black color. If one were to look at this pupil carefully, one would see a huge Buddha and demonic shadow in it. Swoosh. Chapter 905. Transplanting the Buddha demon eye. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with determination. His sea of consciousness had already been messed up by Emperor Qing, and he could barely use any mental energy. On the other hand, the Buddha demon eye could help Zhuowen reconstruct his sea of consciousness. It could even make his sea of consciousness stronger. Moreover, Even if it failed, the price would only be his sea of consciousness being completely destroyed. Zhuowen felt that this price was not too high. After all, his sea of consciousness was already in such a state, and it was no different from being destroyed. Even if the transplanting of the Buddha demon eye failed, it wouldn't be a great loss to Zhuowen. In fact, what Zhuowen didn't know was that this price was under the premise that he had the Buddha and demon polarity earth. If he didn't have the Buddha and demon polarity earth to help offset the side effects of the Buddha demon eye, the price might not be so little. It might even endanger his life. Then let's begin. Xiaohei nodded. With a wave of her right hand, the Buddha and demon polarity earth on Zhuowen's palm immediately wrapped around the Buddha demon eye. Then, under Xiaohei's control, it slowly moved towards the center of Zhuowen's brows. Finally, the Buddha demon eye arrived at the center of Zhuowen's brows. Zhuowen only felt a sharp pain between his brows. Then, he could clearly feel that the Buddha and demon polarity earth that wrapped around the Buddha demon eye was slowly moving towards the center of Zhuowen's brows. Fine beads of sweat dripped down from Zhuowen's forehead. Zhuowen's body was also constantly trembling. His face was pale and bloodless, as if he was a bedridden patient. Kid, the process of transplanting the Buddha demon eye is extremely slow and extremely important. If there's even the slightest bit of negligence, all the previous efforts will be wasted. Therefore, you have to endure it and don't pass out halfway. Xiaohei's cautious voice once again resounded in Zhuowen's mind. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. He gritted his teeth and endured the sharp pain between his brows, maintaining a clear mind at all times. Just as Zhuowen was transplanting the Buddha demon eye in the cave, the faces of Demon Daozi and Qing Su in the air above the dense forest weren't looking too good. The two of them had been searching this dense forest for an entire day and night. With their speed, they had practically searched the entire dense forest several times, but they still couldn't find any traces of Zhuowen. Looks like Zhuowen should have left this forest. Qing Su, I won't accompany you to search here. Goodbye. Master Demon coldly glanced at Master Qing Su beside him. After saying this, he simply left the forest. It was clear that Master Demon didn't want to waste his efforts. Qing Su's expression was extremely ugly. Because Demon Taoist had obtained the Buddha Demon Bodhi tree from him, this could be considered a great harvest. Therefore, his desire for Zhuowen was not as strong as before. However, Qing Su was different. He had painstakingly pulled out the Buddha Demon Bodhi tree, and originally thought it would be a great harvest. He didn't expect Demon Daozi to snatch it away and end up giving it to someone else. In addition, Zhuowen's nascent soul was very attractive to him. Therefore, Qing Su's desire to find Zhuowen was much stronger than Demon Daozi's. He really wasn't willing to return empty-handed. Thinking of this, Qing Su didn't return to Yin City like Demon Daozi. Instead, he began to frantically search the dense forest like a madman, not letting go of any corner. 3 days later, Qing Su quietly floated above the dense forest. His face was ashen. He had been desperately searching for 3 days, but he still hadn't found any clues. Forget it. With a sigh, Qing Su took a step and disappeared above the dense forest. Clearly, he had also given up on searching for Zhuowen. What Qing Su didn't know was that not long after he left the dense forest, Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes in an extremely remote cave in the dense forest. At this moment, an eye intertwined with golden and black light gently opened between his eyebrows. In an instant, Zhuowen's body was shrouded by the Buddha's shadow and the demon's shadow. It made Zhuowen look dignified but also evil. It was like a contradictory combination. In Zhuowen's knowledge sea, an ancient Buddha and a demon stood opposite each other. Demon Qi and Buddha Qi intertwined and filled Zhuowen's knowledge sea. Moreover, Zhuowen found that the ancient Buddha in his knowledge sea possessed a powerful Buddha Qi that was constantly combining with the great sun Nirvana Qi in his body. Under such a combination, the ancient Buddha and the great sun Nirvana Qi were constantly growing stronger. This ancient Buddha is actually operating the great sun Nirvana Qi in my body? Feeling the surging great sun Nirvana Qi in the meridians in his body, Zhuowen's eyes shone brightly. He was pleasantly surprised. The great sun Nirvana Qi is a Buddhist cultivation method. Since there is an ancient Buddha in your knowledge sea, It will bring unimaginable benefits to your cultivation of the great sun nirvana chi. Xiao He came to Zhuowen's shoulder and teased him. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. Suddenly, he had an idea and said, if the ancient Buddha in my knowledge see brings unimaginable benefits to my cultivation of the Buddhist cultivation method, then wouldn't the demon in my knowledge see be of great benefit to my cultivation of the demon sex cultivation method? Indeed, the ancient Buddha and demon in your knowledge see both contain the origin of the Buddha and the demon sect. As long as you have the Buddha and the demon sex cultivation method in your body, you don't need to cultivate it yourself. The cultivation method in your body will automatically operate. Xiao He nodded and continued. Moreover, since the demon in your knowledge see contains the essence of the demon sect, it will bring unimaginable benefits to your control over the power of the blood demon. After all, you still have the blood inheritance seal in your hands. The blood demon will not be able to do anything to you. Zhuowen's eyes shone brightly. If what Xiao He said was true, then with the existence of the demon in his knowledge see, wouldn't it mean that he could control the power of the demon sect from back then? Back then, when Zhuowen had been possessed by the demon sect, the power that he controlled was indeed extremely powerful. If Zhuowen could control that power back then, Zhuowen's strength would have increased by several times. Kid, with the Buddha demon eye, you can now switch between the Buddha and demon states. If you switch to the Buddha state, then your cultivation of the Buddha sex cultivation method will be extremely fast. If you switch to the demon state, then you can use the demon sex Tao to cultivate the power of the demon sect. Furthermore, your current strength isn't too strong. You won't be able to unleash the true power of the Buddha demon eye. However, just the switching between the Buddha and demon states will bring unimaginable benefits to your strength, Xiao He said plainly. Zhuowen also knew how powerful the Buddha demon eye was. After all, it was the third eye of the fighting Buddha demon sage. The fighting Buddha demon sage was one of the existences that were closest to God in ancient times. Naturally, the Buddha demon eye was extremely powerful. However, the current Zhuowen was still too weak. Naturally, it was difficult for him to unleash the full power of the Buddha demon eye. Let's talk about it after I recover my strength. As for the Buddha demon eye, it won't be too late to study it after my strength has fully recovered. Slowly closing the Buddha demon eye, Zhuowen waved his right hand and took out the yuanying of the white-brow heavenly master. Zhuowen, what are you trying to do now? The white-brow heavenly master glared at Zhuowen as soon as he appeared. At the same time, there was a trace of fear on his face. What else can I do? Can't you see that I'm only a three-wheel ultimate emperor? Naturally, I'll use you to help me recover my strength. Zhuowen sneered. He grabbed the white-brow heavenly master with his right hand and began to silently absorb the power of the white-brow heavenly master's yuanying. The pitiful white-brow heavenly master could only allow himself to be carried by Zhuowen in humiliation. He allowed Zhuowen to absorb the power of his yuanying. Although he howled in protest, Zhuowen didn't even spare him a glance. Time flowed by, and a month's time quickly passed. Within the lush forest, countless birds flew past, and a gentle breeze blew past, causing the fallen leaves on the ground to flutter. Boom! An explosive sound suddenly rang out. In an inconspicuous corner of the dense forest, there was a cave. At this moment, the cave actually collapsed, bursting into countless pieces of rubble. A figure stepped out from the rubble. This person had a delicate face. He was about 20 years old. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and there was a smile on his face. After a month, I finally completely recovered my cultivation. Haha, White-brow Heavenly Master, thank you for taking care of me this month. This person was Zhuowen. At this moment, the ball of light in Zhuowen's right hand was so dim that it was almost transparent. The White-brow Heavenly Master within the ball of light was extremely weak. Over the past month, Zhuowen had basically taken everything from him. His Yuanying's power had almost been completely absorbed by Zhuowen. If it weren't for the fact that a Heavenly Master's Yuanying was extremely powerful, the White-brow Heavenly Master's soul would probably have dissipated by now. Zhuowen, you bastard, what do you take me for? Bastard! White-brow Heavenly Master roared through gritted teeth. Do you want to recover your physical body? Zhuan suddenly said. The originally furious white-brow heavenly master was stunned when he heard Zhuan's words. Immediately he said somewhat incredulously, "You're willing to recover my physical body? If you acknowledge me as your master, after I reach Yen City, I'll immediately gather the materials and refine a physical body for you, returning you the freedom and dignity of an Empyrean realm powerhouse. How about it?" Zhuan said with a faint smile, but White-Brow Heavenly Master's expression was ugly as he said coldly, "You want me to acknowledge you as my master? Are you dreaming? You, a junior, actually also want me to acknowledge you as my master? Although I'm a junior, you were defeated at my hands back then. Could it be that this isn't enough? Furthermore, if you keep living in the state of yuanying, as time passes, you'll only become weaker and weaker. Furthermore, you won't be able to cultivate to replenish your energy. You'll die without a doubt. Could it be that you feel that you have another choice?" Zhuan said with a sneer. White-Brow Heavenly Master's face darkened, his eyes flickering endlessly. It was unknown what he was thinking about. "I'll only give you 3 breaths of time. If I count to 3 and you don't make a decision, I'll personally take action and make your soul dissipate, thoroughly vanishing from this world." Zhuan's words at this moment were filled with cold killing intent. His words were absolutely not joking. White-Brow Heavenly Master's face turned stiff, his gaze gloomy. 1, 2, 3. Talking up to here. The killing intent in Zhuan's gaze was seemingly corporeal, piercing until White-Brow Heavenly Master's entire body trembled. Chapter 906. The 5 Celestial Venerables servants. The corners of Zhuan's lips curled up when he saw Celestial Venerate White-Brow yield. He faintly smiled and said, "Since you've accepted me as your master, extract a strand of your soul origin and give it to me for safekeeping." Celestial Venerate White-Brow's face changed slightly. Soul origin was his most important thing. If Zhuan obtained it, his life would be completely under Zhuan's control. However, Celestial Venerate White-Brow had no choice but to yield. He did not want his soul to disperse just like that. After all, it was not easy for him to reach the Celestial Venerate level. If he encountered a fortuitous encounter in the future, he might even be able to reach the Emperor realm. How could he be willing to let his soul disperse just like that? "Hurry up," Zhuan urged coldly. Celestial Venerate White-Brow gently sighed. He tapped his forehead with his right hand, and a golden line was extracted from the depths of his forehead. It quietly hovered above his palm. This was a strand of his soul origin. At that moment, Celestial Venerate White-Brow's face paled and his body trembled. His nascent soul also became fainter. Clearly, extracting the soul origin had affected him quite a bit. Swish! Zhuan accepted Celestial Venerate White-Brow's soul origin and pressed it into his sea of consciousness. Afterward, he flipped his right hand and pressed it against Celestial Venerate White-Brow's ball of light. Strands of surging origin energy surged into the ball of light. Immediately, Celestial Venerate White-Brow's fainter body gradually solidified. Celestial Venerate White-Brow looked at Zhuan in surprise when he felt the surging origin energy enter his body. Clearly, he had not expected Zhuan to do something like this. "There's no need to look at me like that. Since you've already given me your soul origin, you're mine now. I basically won't mistreat my own people," Zhuan said indifferently. Celestial Venerate White-Brow nodded. He did not say anything else, but there was a sliver of surprise in his eyes. Zhuan waved his right hand, and 4 balls of light appeared in front of him. They were the nascent souls of Guanghan Heavenly Lord, Huangjiao Heavenly Lord, Shiyu, and Xiang Tianzuan. At this moment, the nascent souls of the 4 celestial sovereigns opened their eyes and glared at Zhuan. Xiang Tianzuan said coldly to Zhuan, "How long are you going to seal our nascent souls? I will give the 4 of you a choice. First, hand over your soul essence and acknowledge me as your master. Not only will I unlock the seal on your nascent souls, I will also help you reconstruct your fleshly bodies. Second, your souls will be destroyed immediately," Zhuan said coldly. "What?" When the 4 Empyreans heard this, they were all shocked. Zhuan actually wanted them to acknowledge him as their master. He actually wanted to completely annihilate him, So Zhang Tianzuan was afraid and surrendered. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up. He stopped attacking and said indifferently, "If you surrender to me, you don't have to feel that it's not worth it. I, Zhuowen, promise you that if I reach the imperial realm one day, I will return your soul origin and set you free." As soon as these words came out, Zhang Tianzuan, who was still a little unwilling, completely surrendered. Zhuowen had already made a promise, which could be considered as benevolent. If he did not know what was good for him, then only death would await him. "Greetings, master." Zhang Tianzuan knelt on one knee and touched his forehead with his right hand. Without hesitation, he pulled out a wisp of his soul origin and handed it to Zhuowen. Since Zhang Tianzuan had already done so, the Guanghan Heavenly Sovereign and the other two did not insist. They also took out their soul origin and handed it to Zhuowen. After pressing the 4 soul origins into their foreheads, Zhuowen said to Zhang Tianzuan and the others, "Reconstructing your physical bodies requires a huge amount of resources. After I go to Yin City, I will think of a way for you. During this period of time, keep them in your spirit rings for a while." Yes, Zhang Tianzuan and the others did not refuse. They cupped their hands and were all kept in Zhuowen's spirit rings. "It's time to go to Yin City," Zhuowen muttered to himself. With a stomp of his foot, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the sky above the dense forest. At the end of a vast and boundless plain, a huge city stood on the plain like a savage giant beast, as if it had existed since ancient times. Strangely, there was a monstrous sea of fire in the sky above this huge city. This sea of fire spread and covered the entire city. This city that was shrouded in the sea of fire was the most prosperous city in the Yin Xian Empire, Yin City. Swoosh! A stream of light instantly arrived near Yin City. When he saw the endless sea of fire in the sky above the city, his eyes were filled with shock. This person was indeed Zhuowen, who had traveled nonstop for 3 days. As expected, the core cities of the empire are all extraordinary. As he stared at the Yin City before him, Zhuowen could not help but recall the royal city of the Qing Xian Empire. In the sky above the royal city, there was an illusory shadow of a huge dragon, while this Yin City was a sea of fire. Evidently, the cities that were overseen by emperor-level experts would all have their own strange phenomena in the sky above them. The Qing Emperor was like this, and so was the Yin Emperor of the Yin Xian Empire. "I wonder which part of Yin City is Miss Ling Yu's Yuan clan?" Zhuowen softly muttered to himself. His feet did not slow down as he directly stepped into Yin City. Back when he was with the Yuan clan, Zhuowen had promised Yuan Lingyu that once his cultivation recovered, he would help her expel the cold qi in her body. However, Zhuowen had already changed his appearance before entering Yin City. After all, his true appearance had been seen by Mo Ying and Zui Qingfeng. Given the importance the two of them placed on rare treasures, they would definitely report Zhuowen to the sect behind him. If Zhuowen swaggered into Yin City with his original appearance, he would undoubtedly be courting death. At this moment, Zhuowen's appearance had already turned into that of a waxen youth. He looked sickly, as if a gust of wind could blow him away. Furthermore, he had already retracted his venerable stage aura, only revealing the cultivation of an ultimate two-wheel emperor. After all, possessing the aura of a venerable stage cultivator at such a young age would undoubtedly attract the attention of many. That would greatly increase the chances of his identity being exposed. Most of the people walking on the streets of Yin City were cultivators. Furthermore, there was no lack of powerful ultimate emperor stage cultivators. One could even see a few ultimate venerable stage cultivators. However, there were very few of them, and most of them were ultimate emperor stage cultivators. Many cultivators had set up stalls on both sides of the street, selling all sorts of things. There were soul treasures, secret techniques, armor techniques, elixirs, and so on. As long as it was related to the martial Tao, the surrounding stalls would sell everything. As he looked at the stalls on both sides of the street, Zhuowen asked Xiaohei in his heart, "Xiaohei, what materials do you need to reconstruct a body?" Xiaohei sneered, "Kid, do you think that reconstructing a body is easy? You've already destroyed the bodies of those 5 heavenly sovereigns. It won't be that easy to reconstruct a body suitable for them. Zhuowen raised his eyebrows slightly as a bitter smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. It seemed that he had underestimated the difficulty of reconstructing a body. It's a good thing that you've only reconstructed the body of a heavenly sovereign. If it was the body of an emperor realm cultivator, your current wealth would be enough to bankrupt you. Xiaohe ridiculed. Is the price that high? Zhuowen was somewhat speechless. Of course it's high. With the amount of spirit stones you currently have, I feel that it would be a little difficult to reconstruct the body of heavenly sovereign by May, let alone Xiang Tianzuan. Xiaohe said indifferently. Chapter 907. Setting up a stall. Kid. Don't you have quite a few useless soul treasures on you? If you exchange these soul treasures for spirit stones, you will gain quite a bit of wealth. At that time, you will be able to purchase the materials needed to reconstruct your body. Xiaohe suddenly said to Zhuowen. Upon hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes brightened. Xiaohe was right. Now that his cultivation had reached the utmost being stage, earthly soul treasures were no longer of much use to him, and could be exchanged for spirit stones. The street vendors on both sides of Yin City are so busy. I can find a stall here to sell soul treasures from spirit rings. As he spoke, Zhuowen turned his attention to the situation on both sides of the street. However, he was astonished to find that both sides of the street were completely occupied by vendors. There was basically no empty space at all. This caused Zhuowen to feel rather depressed. After walking for a while, Zhuowen suddenly discovered a middle-aged man on the left in front of him. Perhaps he had some matters to attend to, so he hurriedly packed up his stall and hurriedly left. After the middle-aged man left, Zhuowen took a step forward and arrived at the stall in an instant. With a flick of his finger, he retrieved a brocade cloth from his spirit ring and spread it on the ground. At the stall next to Zhuowen's was a burly man. This burly man's aura was vigorous, and he was an ultimate four-wheel emperor. When he saw that Zhuowen was young, his complexion was waxen and his aura was weak. A trace of disdain involuntarily appeared on his face. Zhuowen did not pay attention to the burly man's expression. With another flick of his finger, he retrieved two glowing earthly soul treasures. One of them was a pitch-black longsword, while the other was a brocade cloth. They were likely defensive soul treasures. Of course, given Zhuowen's inventory, it was impossible for him to only have two earthly soul treasures on him. However, taking out too many at once would inevitably arouse the greed of others. Oh, two earthly soul treasures? The burly man next door originally had a look of disdain on his face. However, when he saw Zhuowen casually take out two earthly soul treasures, he could not help but reveal a trace of emotion. Moreover, looking at the surface of the soul treasures on Zhuowen's stall, the quality was obviously not low. The glow emitted by the surface of the earthly soul treasure quickly attracted the attention of the passers-by. They were all attracted by Zhuowen's earthly soul treasure. Earth-rank spirit treasures were extremely rare to low-level ultimate emperor realm cultivators. Once they possessed an earth-rank spirit treasure, their combat strength would increase by quite a bit. However, when the cultivators in the surroundings saw that the owner of the stall was a young man with a sallow complexion, they couldn't help but be surprised. In particular, the young man's aura wasn't very strong. He was only around the level of a second-wheel ultimate emperor. Generally speaking, Earth-rank spirit treasures would be of great help to second-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivators. But this young man was selling them. Moreover, he was selling two at once, so everyone couldn't help but guess that he had more than two Earth-rank spirit treasures. After all, someone who could casually take out two earthly soul treasures like this would definitely have better soul treasures on him that he could use. When they thought of this, the eyes of some of the cultivators in the surroundings flickered. No one knew what they were thinking. A middle-aged man with a goatee walked out and asked Zhuowen with a smile, "Little brother, how much are you selling this longsword soul treasure for?" "Fixed price. 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones." Zhuowen said indifferently. This pitch-black longsword was a high-grade earth-rank spirit treasure. It was very powerful. If an ultimate emperor realm cultivator possessed it, it would be of great help to them. Therefore 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones was not considered expensive. The middle-aged man with the goatee frowned slightly. It was obvious that Zhuowen's price was too high, causing him to hesitate. Little brother, sell it to me for 3,000 mid-grade spirit stones. How about we become friends? The man with the goatee suddenly smiled. Zhuowen shook his head, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. This longsword soul treasure could cut through iron like it was mud. Its power was vast and mighty. Even 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones was not considered expensive. However, this man actually wanted to buy it for 3,000 mid-grade spirit stones. How could there be such a good deal? What? Are you looking down on me? The man with the goatee's expression was cold as he stared fixedly at Zhuowen. There was a trace of cold killing intent in his eyes. He did not even try to conceal his killing intent at all. Zhuowen's gaze gradually turned cold when he sensed the killing intent from the man with the goatee. This man with the goatee actually wanted to kill him, just because he, Zhuowen, refused to sell his soul treasure. The surrounding men all revealed looks of ridicule. They all knew that this young man who had set up the stall was only a second-wheel ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. There were certain unspoken rules when setting up a stall in Yin City. If the stall owner was weak, and the items he took out were extremely precious, then it was very easy for stronger customers to bully him or even rob him. Little brother, I've already given you a lot of face, and was willing to buy your soul treasure longsword for 3,000 mid-grade spirit stones. However, you don't appreciate it. How about this? I'll give you another chance. Sell it to me for 300 mid-grade spirit stones, and I won't pursue your rudeness, the man with the goatee said coldly. Scram! Zhuowen did not want to waste any more words with the man with the goatee, and directly told him to scram. The man with the goatee was getting more and more arrogant. Now, he actually wanted to sell it to him for 300 mid-grade spirit stones. This was no different from selling scrap metal. You're telling me to scram? Good. A mere second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Jr. dares to speak to me like this. I think you're tired of living. The man with the goatee was so angry that he laughed. He stomped his foot, and the aura of a third-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator burst out. He then formed a palm with his right hand and blasted it at Zhuowen. The surrounding practitioners were not the least bit surprised when they saw this scene. Such fights were all too common in Yin City. In particular, cases of the strong bullying the weak occurred every day. Instead, the surrounding practitioners felt that Zhuowen was too unappreciative. If he had swallowed his pride and sold the longsword soul treasure to the man with the goatee, things would have been much better. Instead, he would likely have to suffer a little now. Looks like you didn't hear a single word of my words. In that case, I can only beat you until you scram. Zhuowen coldly chuckled. With a flick of his sleeve, Yuan power gushed out from his right palm. His robes fluttered and directly slammed into the man with the goatee's palm. Crack! The clear sound of bones cracking rang out. The man with the goatee's expression stiffened as he saw his right hand being twisted at an irregular angle. An intense pain spread from his right hand, causing the man to involuntarily scream out in pain. Scram! Just as he finished speaking, the man with the goatee was sent flying backwards in an extremely sorry fashion. He crashed heavily a dozen meters away, clutching his completely twisted right arm, as he rolled back and forth while screaming in pain. Hiss! When they saw the man with the goatee's completely twisted right arm, everyone knew that his right arm was probably completely crippled. However, they were even more shocked by the strength of the sallow youth. He was clearly only at the second wheel of the Ultimate Emperor Realm, but he'd actually crippled a third-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm practitioner with a single move. Zhuowen's performance immediately caused fear to appear in the eyes of quite a few practitioners in the surroundings. After sending the man with the goatee flying, Zhuowen continued to sit like a boulder in front of his stall. The man with the goatee had thrown himself into the spear, so he had no one to blame but himself for suffering a great loss. At the same time, Zhuowen also knew that with the man with the goatee as a precedent, the other practitioners would more or less have some misgivings if they wanted to forcefully take something from him. This had saved Zhuowen quite a bit of trouble. Little brother, the stall you're at originally belonged to me, Don't you think it's a little too much for you to casually take over my stall like this? Suddenly, the eyes of the burly man next to Zhuowen flickered as he stared at the two earthly soul treasures on Zhuowen's stall. A bright light flashed in his eyes as his indifferent voice slowly sounded out. Oh, so this is your stall? Turning his head, Zhuowen stared at the brawny man next to him with a cold look in his eyes. He had seen with his own eyes that another cultivator had left due to an urgent matter, so he, Zhuowen, had taken over this stall. Moreover, the stalls on both sides of Yin City were originally free to be used by practitioners. Whoever arrived first would be the first to use it. There was no such thing as this burly man had said. Of course, little brother, if you wish to continue setting up your stall here, you'll have to pay a certain amount of rent, right? The burly man indifferently said. Rent? Then tell me, how much rent do you want me to pay? Zhuowen followed the burly man's words with a smile. The corners of the burly man's mouth raised slightly. Don't you have two soul treasures on your stall? You only need to take out one as rent, and you'll be able to continue setting up your stall here. Zhuowen smiled. He also knew that this burly man's objective was the same as the goateed man's. Both of them had their eyes on the soul treasures on his stall. However, this burly man was even more sinister than the goateed man. He actually wanted to gain something for nothing. However, this burly man did indeed have the qualifications to do so. This was because his cultivation was much stronger than the goateed man's. He had already reached the peak of the ultimate Four Wheels Emperor stage, and was many times stronger than the goateed man. Then according to what you've said, all the streets in Yin City belong to you? Does that mean that you're on equal footing with the Flame Emperor? Zhuowen teased. The burly man's expression darkened slightly as he coldly replied. Little brother, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Don't think that you're all that just because you defeated an ultimate Three Wheels Emperor trash. Let me tell you, there are countless people in Yin City who are stronger than you. You're nothing compared to them. Hee. Even if I'm nothing, I'm still stronger than you. What qualifications do you have? What face do you have to actually use an earthly soul treasure as rent? Do you think that I'm a 3-year-old kid? Or is there something wrong with your brain? Zhuowen mercilessly retorted. The burly man's expression stiffened. Soon after, a bone-chilling coldness appeared in his eyes as he stared at Zhuowen and said, Do you dare to say that again? What else can you do other than bark like a dog in front of me? Zhuowen icily replied. Die. The burly man roared and actually directly attacked Zhuowen. A fist flew out, and a thunderous explosion erupted as wild winds howled around them. Looks like my methods aren't vicious enough. Since you're so eager to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Chapter 908. SS Stellar Sword. As he spoke, Zhuowen stomped his foot. Facing the burly man's punch, he was not afraid at all. His right hand grabbed the burly man's fist, and his origin energy surged out as he exerted force. Crack! The burly man's right hand was actually broken by Zhuowen. Then Zhuowen took a step forward without hesitation. His left hand formed a fist, and under the influence of his origin energy, a terrifying gust of wind was stirred up as his fist landed heavily on the burly man's abdomen. Boom! The burly man's entire body arched up like a cooked shrimp. His entire body trembled, and his eyes bulged as he spat out blood. He was like a faucet that could not be stopped. At this moment, the surroundings suddenly became extremely quiet. The goateed man with 3 wheels had been defeated by Zhuowen in a single move. Perhaps the crowd could somewhat understand why he had been defeated. However, this burly man was obviously at the peak of the 4-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm, yet he had ended up in an even worse state than the goateed man. Everyone knew that this extremely unremarkable young man with a sallow complexion had most likely concealed his cultivation. He was at least at the peak of the 5-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm. I was wrong. Let me go. I won't dare to do it again. The burly man's body was arched, and his voice was extremely weak. There was even a trace of fear in his voice. The burly man had never imagined that the young man in front of him would be so terrifying. He had been reduced to such a state with just one strike. He knew that this sickly young man could kill him as easily as moving his hand. Thus the burly man was terrified. He was even more annoyed at himself for provoking this fiend. Is it enough to say that I was wrong? I just heard that you wanted me to die. Now that you realize that you're no match for me, you're begging for mercy? If my strength was weaker than yours, I'm afraid I would have already fallen in your hands. Zhuowen's voice was cold and emotionless. Then he clenched his left fist, and a trace of golden light flowed around it. Then he punched the burly man's abdomen again. The burly man did not even make a sound before he exploded into a cloud of blood. Hiss! Gasps could be heard one after another. Looking at the burly man who had exploded into a bloody mist, everyone was stunned. Then, their gazes shifted slightly and landed on Zhuowen. Their eyes were filled with fear. It was too ruthless. The young man before them had an ordinary appearance, and his cultivation didn't seem to be much either. However, the strength that he could unleash was actually so powerful. What made the crowd even more fearful was the ruthless methods of the young man before them. With just a single word of disagreement, he had used a lightning-fast method to completely kill him. Moreover, not even his corpse was left behind. When I do business, I pay particular attention to fairness and justice. If you are interested in buying, I will naturally welcome you. Even if you are not satisfied with my spiritual treasure, I will not pester you too much. However, if some people think that I am easy to bully and want to take it by force, I will kill them even if I am not talented. Even though Zhuowen's voice was not loud, every word was like a gem, exploding in the crowd's ears like thunder. This caused some of the restless practitioners in the surroundings to slowly shrink back. After all, there was the precedent of the goateed man and the burly man. As he gazed at the silent practitioners in the surroundings, the corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up slightly. He did not say anything else, as he once again sat down cross-legged at his stall, waiting for the true buyers. With Zhuowen's previous intimidation method, the surrounding practitioners shook their heads and left. Even though they were extremely coveting the earthly soul treasures on Zhuowen's stall, they did not have 5,000 middle-grade spirit stones on them. It was likely that only the disciples of the large clans would be able to take out so many spirit stones. Time gradually passed. The sun, which was originally high in the sky, gradually sank and landed on the ground. The blood-red rays of the setting sun shone upon Yen City, making it appear rather mournful. However, Zhuowen's eyebrows were slightly furrowed. He had already sat here for a day. Even though there were quite a number of practitioners who were attracted by the 2 soul treasures on his stall, after hearing Zhuowen's fixed price, they all shook their heads and left. Looks like setting up a stall is not so easy. Soul treasures are after all too precious. As he muttered to himself, Zhuowen prepared to tidy up his stall. He knew that the majority of the practitioners who shopped at the street stalls were individual practitioners. Without the support of a strong faction, they were basically poor, and it was very difficult for them to take out 5,000 middle-grade spirit stones in one go. Brother, please wait a moment. Are you selling these 2 spiritual treasures in your stall? At this moment, a somewhat scholarly voice sounded out. Soon after, a handsome man dressed in brocade robes led a 16-year-old young lady to Zhuowen's stall. The young lady beside the man stared intently at the longsword soul treasure on Zhuowen's stall. Her eyes were filled with desire. The young lady's expression was too obvious. She clearly wanted the longsword soul treasure on Zhuowen's stall. Zhuowen nodded his head and politely said, "Could it be that this young master wants to buy it?" The scholarly man smiled and nodded his head. Soon after, he turned to the young lady beside him and said, "Su Jin, this longsword soul treasure is an earth upper-tier soul treasure. If you like it, how about I buy it for you?" The young lady named Su Jin's beautiful eyes were filled with joy. She hugged the man's arm and excitedly said, "Really? Big brother Zhongxing, you are so nice." The scholarly man affectionately scratched Su Jin's nose and gently laughed. "Weren't you the one who kept talking about the longsword soul treasure some time ago? If I didn't buy it for you earlier, wouldn't my ears have grown calluses from all the noise?" "How could that be?" Su Jin curled her lips and whispered. The scholarly man shook his head helplessly. Soon after, he stared at Zhuowen and said, "Brother, how much are you selling this longsword soul treasure for?" 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Zhuowen calmly said, the price of your longsword soul treasure is quite reasonable. There are 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones in this Qingquan bag. Brother, you should count carefully. The scholarly man nodded his head. He took out a Qingquan bag and threw it to Zhuowen. After Zhuowen caught the Qingquan bag, he casually checked the number of spirit stones in the Qingquan bag. After confirming that the number was correct, he nodded his head and said, there are indeed 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones. As he spoke, Zhuowen waved his right hand and threw the longsword soul treasure to the scholarly man. After the latter received the longsword soul treasure, he activated the yuan qi in his right hand. Suddenly, the originally black longsword actually emitted a dazzling starlight. The originally unremarkable body of the sword actually became as smooth as water, sparkling and translucent. It looked dreamy and beautiful. This sword is called the Starlight Sword. It has been imbued with the power of the stars. It is as hard as black iron, and as sharp as a thin wing. The starlight surrounding the sword has the effect of protecting its owner. It is an extremely good spirit treasure for an ordinary Ultimate Emperor realm practitioner. Zhuowen explained from the side. Good sword. Brother, if this spirit treasure of yours were to be auctioned, I'm afraid it would be worth more than 5,000 mid-grade spirit stones. This time, I Wu Zongxing have taken advantage of you. The scholarly man laughed heartily. The young girl standing beside the scholarly man, Su Jin, stared at the starlight sword in Wu Zongxing's hand with her beautiful eyes. She didn't expect that the pitch-black longsword soul treasure would actually be so beautiful. As a woman, she was naturally very satisfied with this sword. Wu Zongxing? This person is actually Wu Zongxing. Such a person actually came to a street stall to buy things? I'm afraid he came out to accompany the young girl beside him. That young girl should be Wu Zongxing's beloved younger sister, Wu Sujin. I really didn't expect that this pair of genius siblings would appear here. After the scholarly man announced his name, the surrounding people burst into a frenzy of discussion. Zhuowen also came to know from the surrounding discussions that this man and woman in front of him were actually the direct descendants of the Wu clan. The Wu clan was one of the 4 great clans of Yan City. It was a powerful clan that was on par with the Shaoyang clan. This Wu Zongxing was also a rare genius. He was also a genius on the Flame God list. His fame was as great as the Shaoyang clan's Shaoyan Qing Lin. After purchasing the Starlight Sword, Wu Zongxing didn't stay here for long. Instead, he left with Wu Sujin. However, the surrounding practitioners were still discussing spiritedly. Seeing that the sky was about to darken, Zhuowen also packed up his stall. Being able to sell the Star's Sword today was a good harvest for him. Now, with the original spirit stones he had on him, and the spirit stones he had obtained from selling the Star's Sword, he had a total of more than 10,000 medium-grade spirit stones. Now what Zhuowen needed to do was to buy some materials needed to reconstruct his physical body from other stalls in Yan City. This time, Zhuowen planned to first reconstruct the physical body of the White-Brow Heavenly Sovereign. After all, the White-Brow Heavenly Sovereign was the weakest among the 5 heavenly sovereigns. The cost of reconstructing his physical body was also the lowest. After strolling around Yan City for more than 2 hours, Zhuowen bought all kinds of materials under the guidance of Xiao He. Among them, there were some extremely valuable materials, causing Zhuowen to feel a heartache. After 2 hours, all the materials that Xiao He needed were basically bought by Zhuowen. Then, Zhuowen found a quiet inn and checked in. In a dark room, Zhuowen quietly sat cross-legged in the room. Xiao He stood on his shoulder. In front of Zhuowen was a small mountain of materials. Xiao He, can we begin now? Zhuowen asked Xiao He. Xiao He nodded and said, we can begin. Release the White-Brow Heavenly Sovereign's nascent soul. The process of reconstructing a physical body will take some time. During this time, do not disturb this Dragon Lord, or all my previous efforts will be wasted. Zhuowen nodded. With a wave of his right hand, the White-Brow Heavenly Sovereign's nascent soul was retrieved from his spirit ring and handed to Xiao He. Meanwhile, Zhuowen himself quietly retreated to a corner of the room and silently watched Xiao He. At this moment, the White-Brow Heavenly Sovereign's eyes were slightly dazed. However, when he saw Xiao He, He looked as if he had seen a ghost. The dragon soul before him was very powerful. He had experienced it far too many times, causing the Whitebrow Heavenly Sovereign to subconsciously show fear whenever he saw Xiaohei. Whitebrow old dog, what are you afraid of? This dragon lord is about to help you reconstruct your physical body. If you are unwilling, this dragon lord will not do anything. Xiaohei icily said. Chapter 909. Wang Clam. The corner of Zhuowen's mouth twitched when he saw Empyrean Master Whitebrow's reaction. It seemed like Empyrean Master Whitebrow had been ravaged by Xiaohei back in the spirit ring, causing him to behave like this when he saw Xiaohei. Of course. Listen to your Lord Dragon obediently in the future. Lord Dragon will guarantee that you will have meat to eat. Xiaohei crossed his arms and raised his chin slightly as he chuckled. Yes, yes. Lord Dragon is right. I don't need meat. I just need soup. Empyrean Master Whitebrow smiled flatteringly. Yes, yes. Then scram to the side first. Lord Dragon needs to prepare to reconstruct your body now. Watch carefully. Xiaohei kicked Empyrean Master Whitebrow, causing him to roll far away. Then, he stared solemnly at the mountain-like materials in front of him. It's starting now, Xiaohei muttered softly as he waved his little claws. Immediately, an ink-black energy swept out and enveloped the mountain-like materials in front of him. The ink-black energy became denser and denser. Then, it gradually enveloped the mountain-like materials in front of Xiaohei, turning into a huge black egg that was several feet in size. Zhuowen and Empyrean Master Whitebrow, who had rolled to the corner, stared at Xiaohei's technique without blinking. Clearly, they had never seen or heard of the method Xiaohei used to reconstruct his body. Kid, Lord Dragon needs 7 days. Once 7 days are over, this huge egg will nurture an unconscious body. At that time, the reconstruction of the body will be complete. Xiaohei instructed Zhuowen behind him and began to focus on incubating the huge black egg in front of him. 7 days passed very quickly. During these 7 days, Zhuowen and Empyrean Master Whitebrow both stared nervously at the huge black egg in the middle of the room. They both knew that this huge black egg was the key to the reconstruction of Empyrean Master Whitebrow's body. If it failed, Empyrean Master Whitebrow's dream of reconstructing his body would come to nothing. Kacha! Suddenly, a crisp sound rang out. The huge black egg in the middle of the room trembled violently. Then, cracks appeared on its surface, and the black eggshell peeled off. Zhuowen and the Whitebrow Empyrean Exalted Celestial also noticed the abnormality of the huge black egg. They stared at its surface without blinking. The Whitebrow Empyrean Exalted Celestial was the most nervous. After all, this was crucial to whether or not his body could be reconstructed. When the black egg finally cracked open, a young man with long white eyebrows appeared in front of Zhuowen. At this moment, the young man's eyes were closed, and his face was filled with serenity. Whitebrow, get your ass over here. This body has just been refined by this dragon lord. Go in and give it a try. See if it's suitable. Xiaohei shouted at Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow, who was in a daze in the corner. As for Zhuowen, his face was filled with black lines. Why did Xiaohei's words sound like she was asking Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow to change his clothes? Yes, yes, yes. I'm coming over now. Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow's eyes were filled with joy as he flew over. Then, under Xiaohei's guidance, he entered the body's dantian. After a while, the young man slowly opened his eyes. Then he rubbed his hands, rubbed his chest, and stretched his thighs. His face was filled with excitement. Zhuowen was speechless as he looked at Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow's series of actions. He could not bear to look directly at him. You're a big man. Is it really okay for you to do such ecstasy? Zhuowen flicked his finger and took out a white robe. He threw it to Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow and said, Put on this robe. I still have something to do. Come with me. Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow put on the robe and said respectfully to Zhuowen, Thank you, Master and Dragon Lord. Let's go. With that, Zhuowen pushed open the door. With a step, he flew in a certain direction. Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow followed closely behind Zhuowen. At this moment, Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow did not reject Zhuowen at all. This was because he realized that the physical body that Xiaohei had refined for him was much better than his original body. The best thing was that this physical body was many times younger than his original body. With this physical body, Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow's martial path would definitely be longer than before. Furthermore, he also knew that the dragon soul Xiaohei hidden in Zhuowen's body was probably an extremely terrifying existence when she was alive. On the other hand, Zhuowen was a freak with abnormal talent. Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow could see a limitless future in this human and dragon duo. The main reason why Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow followed Emperor Qing and worked for him wholeheartedly was that Emperor Qing could guide him further on the martial path. Now Xiaohei and Zhuowen could give him the same thing. In fact, what Xiaohei gave him was even better than what Emperor Qing had given him. In addition, Zhuowen had promised them that if Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow's cultivation level advanced to the Emperor realm, they would be able to regain their freedom. Why would Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow reject such benefits? After all, there was no harm in it for him. Swoosh. Not long after, Zhuowen and Heavenly Venerable Whitebrow arrived in front of a rather luxurious mansion in Yin City. The two words Yuan Residence were written on a signboard above the mansion. Back when they were in Yuan Lingyu's carriage, Zhuowen had already promised Yuan Lingyu that once his cultivation level recovered, he would help her get rid of the strange cold qi in her body. Now that his cultivation level had recovered, it was time to fulfill his promise. Standing quietly at the entrance of Yuan Residence, Zhuowen did not directly enter. Instead, he took out a jade talisman with his right hand. With a push of his Yuan power, the jade talisman turned into a ray of light and instantly flew into Yuan Residence. As the ray of light was extremely fast, the guards at the entrance did not notice it. However, these guards were extremely cautious as they stared at Zhuowen. An unfamiliar young man suddenly standing at the entrance of Yuan Residence would naturally arouse suspicion. However, since Zhuowen did not do anything, these guards did not make a move. They only stared at Zhuowen from time to time. The jade talisman that Zhuowen had used was a communication method. Back then, when Zhuowen used the Saint Ice talisman to investigate the cold qi in Yuan Lingyu's body, he had left a mark on her body. This was so that when Zhuowen's cultivation level recovered, Zhuowen would be able to easily find Yuan Lingyu's location. Indeed, not long after the jade talisman disappeared into the Yuan Residence, Yuan Lingyu walked out of the mansion with the help of Leng Ying. Then, her gaze focused on Zhuowen, a trace of suspicion in her eyes. Just now, she was washing up in her room when a jade talisman suddenly flew in from the window and appeared in front of her, giving her a fright. Moreover, a line of words appeared on the jade talisman that had suddenly appeared. Miss Yuan, I have fulfilled my promise and am here to help you expel the cold qi in your body. It was because of these words that Yuan Lingyu immediately thought of Zhuowen. Hence, after washing up, Yuan Lingyu came out with Leng Ying. Due to the phoenix feather that Xiaoyan Pu had given her, Yuan Lingyu's complexion was now much rosier than before. However, Leng Ying's expression was still cold, as if someone owed her something. When Yuan Lingyu and Leng Ying saw Zhuowen and the Whitebrow Heavenly Master standing at the entrance, their gazes converged on Zhuowen. Yuan Lingyu's beautiful eyes were complicated, while Leng Ying's expression was cold. There was even a trace of an unknown emotion on her face. Looking at the expressions on their faces, Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. He could feel a trace of alienation between the two women. Needless to say, Zhuowen did not see eye to eye with Leng Ying from the beginning. However, Yuan Lingyu's relationship with Zhuowen was quite harmonious. However, Yuan Lingyu's current attitude towards Zhuowen puzzled Zhuowen. Miss Lingyu, long time no see. Back then in the carriage, I promised that once my cultivation recovered, I would help you expel the cold qi in your body. Zhuowen did not think too much about it, and smiled at Yuan Lingyu. Zhuowen, you're just talking nonsense, aren't you? Even some patriarchs can't do anything about the cold qi in Lingyu's body. Do you think a piece of trash like you can solve it? If you want to climb up to our Yuan clan, because of this, I advise you to give up. With your status and cultivation, how can you be worthy of our Lingyu? Leng Ying stood in front of Yuan Lingyu and looked down at Zhuowen with her cold eyes. Her beautiful eyes stared at the spirit ring on Zhuowen's finger and continued. The one who kidnapped me last time was indeed your accomplice. Now you should take the initiative and hand over the spirit ring. Zhuowen stared coldly at Lung Ying and said calmly, the one who kidnapped you was not me, but the people from the Shaoyan family. If I really had someone, would I need you to save me back then? Are you still trying to deny it? If you want to get rid of suspicion, then hand over the spirit ring on your finger first. Lung Ying spread out her hands and said rudely. Scram! Zhuowen spat out in a cold voice. Lung Ying's expression froze and her face turned red. She pointed at Zhuowen and said angrily, what did you just say? Do you dare to say it again? Sister Lung Ying and young Master Zhua, stop arguing. Wan Lingyu shouted with a serious face. Hearing this, Lung Ying snorted and said unhappily, Lingyu, why do you keep helping Zhuowen, an outsider? Have you forgotten what young Master Shaoyan said? This person is definitely not with good intentions when he gets close to you. Alright, I believe that young Master Zhua is not that kind of person. When he left our Wan clan's team, he must have had something important to do, right? Wan Lingyu shook her head and looked at Zhuowen apologetically. Young Master Zhua, you are a guest after all. You should enter the mansion first. This matter is of great importance, and I still need my father's approval. I hope that young Master Zhua will not forgive me. I know. Let's go in. Zhuowen nodded and followed Wan Lingyu and Lung Ying into the Wan clan's mansion. After entering the mansion, there was a spacious training field in front of them. At this moment, there were many juniors practicing martial arts in the training field. The wind from the punches whistled and the air shook. Wan Lingyu's group of 4 naturally attracted the attention of the other people in the martial arts practice field, especially when they saw Zhuowen, who was standing side by side with Wan Lingyu. These younger generation members all revealed astonished expressions. Who is that young man? Why is he walking with young Miss Lingyu and seems to be talking and laughing? The second young master of the Shaoyan family, Shaoyan Pu, already proposed marriage to our Wan clan yesterday. He wants to marry young Miss Lingyu. Now, young Miss Lingyu is talking and laughing with this strange young man. I don't think it's a good idea. Chapter 9-10. Lung Feng. After passing through the training grounds, Zhuowen followed Wan Lingyu and Lung Ying into the main hall of the Wan residence. There were a few middle-aged men with powerful auras in the hall. They also noticed Wan Lingyu and the other 2 who had just entered. One of the middle-aged men with a dignified expression stepped forward and glanced at Zhuowen. Then he said to Wan Lingyu and Lung Ying, Lingyu, Lung Ying, this person isn't from our Wan clan, right? Elder Lung, Zhuowen is my friend. He's here to expel the cold energy in his body. Wan Lingyu said softly. Oh, he's Zhuowen? The dignified middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and stared at Zhuowen with a strange expression. Then, Zhuowen felt a consciousness descend on his body, as if it wanted to see through all his secrets. Zhuowen's face was gloomy. This divine sense was naturally emitted by the middle-aged man in front of him. Generally speaking, directly using one's divine sense to probe the aura of another cultivator was an extremely rude act. If he encountered a cultivator with a fiery temper, he would have already started a fight. This middle-aged man was probably relying on his high cultivation to check Zhuowen's cultivation, especially when the middle-aged man found that Zhuowen and the white-brow heavenly sovereign's aura were not strong. His eyes revealed a trace of disdain. After all, both Zhuowen and the white-brow heavenly sovereign had already restrained their auras before leaving the house, just in case. Father, this Zhuowen must be a liar. Even our patriarch was unable to do anything about the cold energy in Lingyu's body. How could this brat with the smell of milk have a way to expel it? Lung Ying suddenly said to the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's identity was obvious. He was the second strongest expert in the Wan family, Lung Feng. His strength was second only to the patriarch of the Wan family, Wan Xianfeng. At the same time, he was Lung Ying's father, and had an extremely high status in the Wan family. Elder Lung, since I'm already in this state, why not let young Master Zhua try? If it can really be cured, then everyone will be happy. Wan Lingyu shook her head and smiled bitterly. It's okay to try, but I'm afraid that some people have ulterior motives. I'm also thinking about your safety, Lung Feng reminded. Then, he stared indifferently at Zhuowen and said arrogantly, "You're just an ultimate Emperor Realm second wheel cultivator. I shouldn't have believed you with such a low cultivation. However, since Lingyu is begging me, I will reluctantly let you try. But I have to remind you, don't harbor any evil intentions. With your cultivation, you're not worthy of Lingyu, and our Wuan clan is even more out of your league. Do you understand?" With that, Lung Feng swung his sleeves and sat on an armchair at the back of the hall. His face was full of dignity, as if he was looking down at Zhuowen from above. "Is this how your Wuan clan treats its guests? I came all the way here to help Miss Wuan expel the cold qi in her body. But not only did you use your consciousness to check on me, you're not being polite at all. Do you think that I, Zhuowen, am a servant of your Wuan clan?" Zhuowen said coldly. Kacha, Lung Feng's right hand, which had been holding a teacup, suddenly froze. Then, he exerted force and crushed the teacup. He looked coldly at Zhuowen and said, "You dare refute me? How dare you interrupt when I'm speaking?" With that, Lung Feng slowly stood up. A formless, terrifying aura surged out and enveloped Zhuowen. However, Zhuowen didn't move at all. His cold eyes stared fearlessly at Lung Feng. At the same time, he sent out his consciousness to check on Lung Feng's cultivation. Ultimate Eight-Wheel Emperor? In an instant, Zhuowen found out Lung Feng's cultivation. He was only an ultimate Eight-Wheel Emperor, yet he dared to be so arrogant in front of Zhuowen. Zhuowen laughed coldly in his heart. "You dare to use your consciousness to check on me? How dare you?" Lung Feng was startled. Soon after, he let out a furious roar as a terrifying aura erupted. Under this aura, the armchair behind him was completely shattered into countless pieces. In an instant, the atmosphere in the entire hall became extremely stifling. The few elders in the hall took a step forward and surrounded Lung Feng. They stared coldly at Zhuowen and the white-brow heavenly master. "What? Only you can check on me with your consciousness, but I can't check on you?" Zhuowen's mouth was full of mockery as he retorted fearlessly. "What a reckless dog!" Lung Ying sneered from the side. Slap. However, before Lung Ying could finish speaking, Zhuowen's foot took a step forward. With a palm wind, he viciously slapped Lung Ying's right cheek. Immediately, the latter's entire body spun like a top before heavily falling onto the ground. "You dare to hit me?" Lung Ying covered her right cheek and pointed at Zhuowen as she shrieked. Her eyes were filled with hatred. "You are the one who is shameless. How can you blame me for this? When you stole my spiritual ring, you attacked me many times for no reason. Now you are cursing at me like a shrew. Do you really think that I, Zhuowen, am your subordinate? That I can order you around?" Zhuowen slowly withdrew his right hand, as if he had done something insignificant. He stood up and returned to the white-brow heavenly master's side. "Father, kill him. How dare he hit me? That bastard!" Lung Ying covered her swollen right cheek and screamed at Lung Feng hysterically. As the number one genius of the Wuan clan, Lung Ying was always the center of attention wherever she went. However, today, she had been slapped in the face by Zhuowen, a piece of trash that she looked down on. Moreover, what drove Lung Ying mad was that she didn't even see Zhuowen's shadow clearly before her right cheek was already swollen from Zhuowen's slap. This caused her to be both shocked and furious. She was shocked because Zhuowen's strength seemed to be much stronger than before, and she was furious because the trash from before actually dared to slap her face in front of her. "It seems like you are here to cause trouble today. Since that is the case, don't blame me for being rude." Lung Feng's face was cold. He finally released the aura of an ultimate Emperor Realm 8 wheels. He took a step forward and was about to attack Zhuowen. "What's going on? Why is it so noisy in the hall?" At this moment, a dignified voice sounded, causing Lung Feng's body to stiffen. He looked at the entrance of the hall and saw a middle-aged man with slightly white hair walk in. Although this middle-aged man's hair was white, and he looked a little old, his spirit was extremely vigorous. His aura was also much stronger than Lung Feng's. He had probably reached the ultimate Emperor Realm 9 wheels. "Father," looking at this dignified middle-aged man, Wuan Lingyu's beautiful face immediately revealed a trace of joy. She quickly ran to the middle-aged man's side and pulled on his arm. Without a doubt, this middle-aged man was the head of the Ruan clan, Ruan Xianfeng. Father, he is the Zhuowen that I told you about before. He has a way to expel the cold in my body. Wan Lingyu's words caused Ruan Xuanfeng's gaze to freeze. He stared straight at Zhuowen and said, "You really have a way to expel the cold in Lingyu's body?" "I'm not 100% sure, but I can try. Who knows, I might be able to solve it." Zhuowen did not speak too confidently. "Although Lingyu said that you are her friend, this is the first time I've seen you, so I can't completely trust you. If you can tell me your method to expel the cold, and prove that you do have a way, then I'll let you try," Wan Xianfeng said calmly. Zhuowen frowned slightly. Wan Xuanfeng's attitude made Zhuowen slightly uncomfortable. However, he came to help Wan Lingyu expel the cold to fulfill his promise, so he did not mind too much. "Sure. However, this method can only be shown to you and Miss Lingyu. As for other people, forget about it. Who knows what other twisted theories they will come up with." Zhuowen's words immediately caused Lung Feng's and Lung Ying's expressions to darken. They almost went berserk. "Head, this Zhuowen's origin is unknown, and his cultivation is so low. I'm afraid he has some ulterior motives for coming to our Ruan clan. Head, please reconsider," Lung Feng said to Ruan Xianfeng in a deep voice. "That's right. Patriarch, this Zhuowen doesn't look like a good person at first glance. I'm afraid that he's not here to save Lingyu, but to harm her instead. We can't believe his one-sided words so easily," Lung Ying added. Zhuowen was unmoved. He only said calmly, "Head of the Ruan clan, I think you're a reasonable person. Since my cultivation is low, if I really wanted to harm Miss Lingyu, why would I come in so openly? Isn't that seeking my own death? If head of the Ruan clan doesn't believe me because of the words of these two idiots, then I'll leave immediately. I won't mention anything about expelling the cold from Miss Lingyu's body again," Zhuowen said indifferently. Wan Xuanfeng's eyes flickered. He nodded and said, "I'll believe you this time. You and Lingyu follow me to another private room. If your method can move me, then I'll let you try. If it succeeds, our Ruan clan won't treat you unfairly." After saying that, Ruan Xianfeng led Zhuowen and Ruan Lingyu to another private room in the depths of the hall. Only Lung Feng and Lung Ying were left standing in the hall, their gazes extremely cold. "Father, actually, there's something I haven't told you. It's about this Zhuowen." Suddenly, Lung Ying whispered to Lung Feng in the hall. What is it?" Lung Feng raised his eyebrows and said in a deep voice. "Back then, after Zhuowen left our group, Lord Demon Taoist of the Heavenly Peak Devil Palace and Lord Qing Su of the Clear Void Valley came looking for Zhuowen. Furthermore, they declared that they would capture Zhuowen. I suspect that Zhuowen definitely possesses an extraordinary treasure that even existences like the Demon Taoist and Qing Su covet for." Hearing Lung Ying's words, Lung Feng's pupils shrank. He said in a low voice, "You're saying that even Master Demon and Master Qingshu came looking for this Zhuowen? Could it be that this kid really has a shocking secret?" Chapter 9:11. 10,000-year dark soul ice venomous insect in a simple but elegant room. A soothing purple sandalwood fragrance filled the air, making people feel calm and serene. "Zhuo Xiaoyu, now can you tell me how to expel the cold from Lingyu's body?" Wan Xianfeng stared at Zhuowen and asked calmly. Nodding his head, Zhuowen stomped his foot, and 7 types of earth fire drilled out of his body. Shortly after, mental energy gushed out from his sea of consciousness, and he used the fire fusion art to fuse the 7 types of earth fire, turning them into a 7-colored phoenix that flew around his body. 7 types of earth fire? You're an arcanist? Wan Xuanfeng's eyes narrowed when he saw the 7-colored phoenix revolving around Zhuowen, and he revealed a trace of astonishment. It wasn't that he hadn't seen earth fire before, but he had never heard or seen 7 types of earth fire appearing on one person's body at the same time. Moreover, the young man in front of him used an incredible method to fuse the earth fire into a 7-colored phoenix fire. Even though Wan Xianfeng was experienced and knowledgeable, he still found it hard to believe. This 7-colored phoenix is formed by fusing 7 types of earth fire. Its power is much stronger than ordinary earth fire, but it's much weaker than sky fire. It's a flame that's between earth fire and sky fire. As for the strange cold in Miss Lingyu's body, I've checked it last time. It's a strange cold that's between earth rank cold and sky rank cold. With the temperature of the seven-colored phoenix's flame, I think there's a high chance that it can expel the cold in Miss Lingyu's body. With a wave of his right hand, the seven-colored phoenix quietly stopped in Zhuowen's palm. Immediately, Zhuowen's gaze landed on Ruan Xianfeng. He knew it was time for Ruan Xianfeng to make a decision. Father, let young Master Zhuo try. Maybe he can really expel the cold in my body completely, Ruan Lingyu said to Ruan Xianfeng. Sure. Then I'll leave everything to you, Zhuo Xiaoyu. I hope Zhuo Xiaoyu won't disappoint me. Ruan Xianfeng gently touched Ruan Lingyu's hair, then nodded to Zhuowen and left the room. Miss Lingyu, you need to lie on the bed first because the cold qi is located in your dantian. If I want to get rid of the cold qi, I have to start from your lower abdomen, Zhuowen said to Ruan Lingyu cautiously. Hearing this, Ruan Lingyu shyly nodded her head. Soon after, she laid down on the bed with her eyes tightly shut. Her hands, which were placed beside the bed, were tightly clenched. Looking at Ruan Lingyu's appearance, Zhuowen rubbed his nose. If this scene were to be seen by others, it would easily cause criticism. However, Zhuowen did not think too much about it. He walked to the bedside and placed his right hand on Ruan Lingyu's flat stomach. Soon after, he spoke to Xiao He in his sea of consciousness. Xiao He. The cold qi in Miss Lingyu's dantian is very strange. Why don't you go in and take a look, and see if you can recognize what this cold qi is? Yes, this dragon master will go and take a look first. Xiao He nodded her head, and turned into a ray of black light that followed Zhuowen's palm, and entered Ruan Lingyu's dantian. At this moment, Ruan Lingyu's cheeks were slightly flushed. Her hair was loosely tied up and scattered around the pillow. In addition to her rosy cheeks, Ruan Lingyu looked even more charming at this moment. However, Zhuowen did not notice this. Instead, he gently placed his right hand on Ruan Lingyu's dantian. His consciousness followed Xiao He and entered Ruan Lingyu's dantian through the meridians around her dantian. He saw that the cold qi in Ruan Lingyu's dantian was still vigorous. Many of the meridians around her dantian had been frozen by this cold qi, causing the yuan power that flowed through here to be blocked and unable to accumulate. Oh, the cold qi in Miss Lingyu's dantian seems to be much stronger than last time. How did it increase so quickly? Zhuowen's brows were tightly knitted together as he probed the cold qi in her dantian. At this moment, the cold qi in Ruan Lingyu's dantian was several times stronger than when Zhuowen had first encountered it a month ago. Now, it had almost frozen Ruan Lingyu's entire dantian. Moreover, this cold qi seemed to be spreading upwards. If this cold qi spread to Ruan Lingyu's heart, there would really be nothing that could be done. Suddenly, Xiao He said to Zhuowen in a serious tone, "This is the larva of the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite. It's not cold qi at all." The larva of the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite? What is that? Zhuowen's gaze was puzzled. He had never heard of this so-called 10,000-year black soul ice parasite that Xiao He spoke of, let alone seeing it before. This is an extremely vicious parasite poison. It's said that this 10,000-year black soul ice parasite is extracted from the black ice layer of the 10,000-mile deep sea. Then, it uses some kind of secret method to make the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite produce larvae. And this larva must be planted on a girl born in the Yin year, Yin month, Yin day, Yin hour. Once planted, that girl will become the nourishment for this 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva. When the girl reaches the age of 18, this 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva will break out of its cocoon and transform into an extremely powerful black soul ice butterfly. Kid, this black soul ice butterfly is incredible. It has the powerful cultivation of the Xuanzuan realm's early stage as soon as it is born. Ordinary Xuanzuan realm cultivators might not be its match. Moreover, if it can be nurtured with a powerful earth-rank cold qi, or even a heaven-rank cold qi, the black soul ice butterfly can continue to grow, and its strength will become even more terrifying. In short, the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite is an extremely vicious and disgusting secret method. I really didn't expect that this dragon lord would still be able to see this secret method after 10,000 years. Xiao Hei's voice became especially serious and fearful, but Zhuowen's gaze was slightly focused. This method was truly vicious. It actually used the human body as the nourishment for the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite, causing it to break out of its cocoon and become a black soul ice butterfly. If the black soul ice parasite breaks out of its cocoon and becomes a butterfly, then what will happen to Miss Lingyu in the end? Zhuowen asked in a low voice. What else can happen? In the end, she will become the black soul ice butterfly's food and be devoured by it, Xiao Hei said coldly. Hearing this, Zhuowen's right hand, which was placed on Wan Lingyu's abdomen, trembled, causing the latter's cheeks to become even redder. She exhaled a faint moan from her small mouth, causing one to feel incomparably numb. However, Zhuowen wasn't in the mood for that. Instead, his heart sank to the bottom. He really didn't know who was so vicious to actually plant such a vicious parasite in Wan Lingyu's body. They really deserved to die. Kid, this dragon lord can sense the aura of the phoenix feather on this girl's body, right? Who gave this to this girl? Xiao Hei suddenly asked coldly. Zhuowen asked doubtfully. What's wrong? This phoenix feather was given to her by Xiaoyan Pu of the Xiaoyan aristocratic family. When Miss Lingyu received the phoenix feather, her complexion became much rosier than before. The effect is very good. Bullshit. Let me tell you. This phoenix feather has a certain catalytic effect on the growth of the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae. If Wan Lingyu carries the phoenix feather for a long time, the larvae's growth will be many times faster than usual, Xiao Hei said coldly. What? Many times faster than usual? Zhuowen's pupil shrank. If what Xiao Hei said was true, then that Xiaoyan Pu's act of fawning over Wan Lingyu and taking the initiative to give away something as precious as the phoenix feather was really worth considering. Could it be that this matter has something to do with the Xiaoyan aristocratic family? Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. Xiao Hei shook his head and said, It's not a possibility but a certainty. The timing of that Xiaoyan Pu giving away the phoenix feather was too coincidental. Moreover, the phoenix feather isn't something that can be casually given away. That Xiaoyan Pu probably knows some inside information. Then can you deal with the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae in Miss Lingyu's dantian? Zhuowen asked seriously. Let's give it a try. Your 7-colored phoenix isn't simple either. Let's see if it can drive away the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae. Kid, first, send the 7-colored phoenix into this girl's meridians. Then, let this dragon lord get rid of it. Zhuowen nodded. With a thought, the 7-colored phoenix circling around him let out a clear cry. Then, it passed through Zhuowen's palm and into Wan Lingyu's meridians through her abdomen. Once the 7-colored phoenix entered her meridians, it was enveloped by a viscous black energy. This black energy was Xiao Hei's power. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Although the 7-colored phoenix was powerful, it wasn't enough to harm Wan Lingyu's meridians. Xiao Hei guided the 7-colored phoenix closer to her dantian. When it arrived in front of her dantian, the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae in her dantian seemed to have discovered something. A soft roar came from her dantian, and then a wisp of blue cold air followed the meridians in her dantian and swept towards Xiao Hei. This bastard! Xiao Hei cursed angrily. Then, the black energy that enveloped the 7-colored phoenix slowly faded away. The blue cold air also arrived, but it was shattered by the 7-colored phoenix's claw. Then, an even more terrifying cold air was released from her dantian. Fortunately, the 7-colored phoenix's power wasn't inferior to the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae. It dissolved the cold air one by one, and finally, after half an hour, it entered her dantian. In her dantian, there was an endless amount of blue cold air. In the center of the cold air, there was an oval ice chrysalis that was formed from a blue ice crystal. This ice chrysalis was translucent. In the chrysalis, there was a milky white fat worm lying motionless. However, the worm's green eyes were staring coldly at Xiao Hei and the 7-colored phoenix, who had just appeared. Hee. Now that you are at the critical moment of breaking out of your cocoon and becoming a butterfly, are you going to come out and bite me? Xiao Hei floated in front of the ice chrysalis smugly. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and raised her chin, looking very disdainful. Under Xiao Hei's instructions, the seven-colored phoenix began to use its powerful flame to expel the surrounding cold air. Sizzle! The 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larvae in the ice chrysalis was anxious. If it wanted to break out of its cocoon and become a butterfly, it had to exist in an extremely cold place. Soon, it would be able to hatch out of Wan Lingyu's dantian. But now that Xiao Hei had messed things up, it had completely lost its chance to break out of its cocoon and become a butterfly. Chapter 9:12. Slander, it's so hot. Young Master Zhua, why do I feel so hot? On the bed, Wan Lingyu's delicate body was wriggling. Her beautiful face was already flushed red, and her fair forehead was covered with fine beads of sweat. At this moment, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. Naturally, he had also noticed Wan Lingyu's strange state. A trace of worry appeared on his face. He did not know if Xiao Hei had gotten rid of the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva in Wan Lingyu's dantian. Zhuowen's left hand pinched lightly, and a wisp of cold air gushed out from the ice saint talisman, carefully wrapping around Wan Lingyu. Even so, Wan Lingyu still felt abnormally hot, and her cheeks were flushed red. I wonder what Xiao Hei is doing inside. Zhuowen muttered to himself anxiously. Zhuowen felt a little worried looking at Wan Lingyu's current state. If someone were to barge into the room at this moment, it would be easy to be misunderstood. Creak! Just as Zhuowen was at his wit's end, the crisp sound of the door opening suddenly rang out. Lung Feng and Lung Ying suddenly barged in, staring coldly at Zhuowen, who was in the room, and Wan Lingyu, who was already lying on the bed with a flushed face. Zhuowen, you are indeed a lecher. You actually used the excuse of getting rid of the cold air to sneak into Lingyu's side and try to ruin her purity. You shameless person. Wan Lingyu's strange state was naturally seen by Lung Feng and Lung Ying. Wan Xianfeng, who was following behind Lung Feng and Lung Ying, also had an ugly expression. His gaze towards Zhuowen also became extremely cold. One family head. Didn't I say just now, while I am getting rid of the cold air for Miss Lingyu, you are not allowed to barge in. What is the meaning of this now? Zhuowen said coldly. So hot, so hot. At this moment, Wan Lingyu was lying on the bed with her eyes closed. She softly moaned and began to tear off her clothes. Zhuowen's eyelids twitched. He had already cursed Xiao Hei countless times in his heart. Why did she have to do this at this moment? Wasn't she trying to trick him? However, Zhuowen also believed that Wan Lingyu's heat was related to the seven-colored phoenix. Once Xiao Hei got rid of the cold air in Wan Lingyu's body, the heat would gradually fade away. Wan Xuanfeng's expression was extremely cold. He stared at Zhuowen and asked coldly, "What did you do to Lingyu? Why is she acting like this?" Wan Lingyu's face. Zhuowen's Lung Feng and Lung Ying. Lung Feng and Lung. Lung's Lung's. Feng and Lung masters to barge in without Lung. Lung, and half of the of Lingyu's. The seven-colored phoenix has already entered Miss Lingyu's dantian. It's currently expelling the cold air in her dantian. This is caused by the seven-colored phoenix's temperature. Now that it was the crucial moment for Xiao Hei to expel the cold air, Zhuowen naturally didn't want to stir up any more trouble. He could only give a brief explanation. I don't think Patriarch Wan wants to harm his daughter, right? Zhuowen asked coldly. How dare you? A little bastard like you actually dares to threaten Lord Patriarch. I think you are courting death. Lung Yingyu pointed her finger at Zhuowen and put a big hat on Zhuowen. Turning his head slightly, Zhuowen stared coldly at Lung Ying and said, Which dog's ears of yours heard that I threatened your patriarch? If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. You mean we're slandering you? Now that Lingyu is lying on the bed and making such unsightly sounds, isn't this your doing? Also, let me tell you, Lingyu is already engaged to Xiaoyan Pu from the Xiaoyan family. Now that you've ruined Lingyu's chastity, a shameless person like you won't be able to walk out of my Yuan family today. Lung Feng stood beside Lung Ying and looked down at Zhuowen with indifference. Zhuowen sneered in his heart and asked Yuan Xianfeng, "Patriarch Yuan, is this what you're thinking?" Yuan Xuanfeng's eyes flickered, but he was unusually silent. He didn't answer Zhuowen's question directly. Obviously, he also agreed with Zhuowen's words. Lecher, do you think that the patriarch will still believe your bullshit words? What a joke. Do you think all of us in the Yuan family are 3-year-old children? Do you really think I don't know the dirty thoughts in your heart? You want to take the opportunity to tarnish Lingyu's chastity and use it to climb up the Yuan family's branch? Let me tell you now, you lowly piece of trash. The Yuan family is not for people like you to climb up the social ladder. Lung Ying was pushing her luck. Her right hand pointed at Zhuowen's nose, and her words were as harsh and merciless as a sharp sword. Whoosh! A black silhouette abruptly appeared in front of Lung Ying, after which a palm stretched out, grabbing Lung Ying by the neck. Lung Ying was unable to continue speaking because the strength of the palm was too great. She couldn't even breathe properly, let alone speak. Zhuowen's attack was too fast. Yuan Xianfeng and Lung Feng didn't even have time to react. After all, they didn't expect Zhuowen to suddenly attack. Even more so, they didn't expect Zhuowen's speed to be so fast. What a thief! How dare you! Lung Feng was stunned. Then he was enraged. He shouted and threw his right palm at Zhuowen. Bang! Terrifying energy poured out. Then, the floor of the room shattered into countless pieces under Lung Feng's terrifying strength, forming a huge pit. Lung Feng's attack only hit Zhuowen's shadow. After Zhuowen restrained Lung Ying, he flew back and stood beside the bed. Zhuowen didn't look at Lung Feng and Yuan Xianfeng. Instead, he looked at the injured Lung Ying and said, "There's a limit to a person's patience. I, Zhuowen, didn't want to bicker with a bitch like you, but your mouth is too despicable, and it makes me very uncomfortable. Now let me teach you how to speak in the future." Slap! The crisp sound of a slap rang out. Lung Ying's right cheek was red and swollen. There was even a horrifying bruise. Zhuowen didn't hold back at all. Lung Ying's cheek was swollen. "Ah, you bastard, you dare to hit me again? What right do you have to hit me? I want you dead." Lung Ying almost went crazy. Zhuowen had already slapped her in the hall. Now she was slapped by Zhuowen again. With Lung Ying's arrogant personality, how could she endure such humiliation? "What right do I have to hit you?" Zhuowen's voice became even colder. He slapped Lung Ying again, and the left side of her face swelled up. The bruise didn't stop there, and blood flowed from the corner of Lung Ying's mouth. "Little bastard! Let go of Lung Ying, or I'll make you die a horrible death." Lung Feng's eyes were bloodshot. Seeing his own daughter being slapped by Zhuowen, it was easy to imagine how terrible his feelings were. "You want me to die a horrible death? Why don't you try?" Originally, I, Zhuowen, came to the Yuan family to fulfill my promise with Miss Lingyu. I didn't think of asking for a reward from the Yuan family. Unfortunately, that bitch Lung Ying mocked and ridiculed me the moment she came. And you, as an elder, took advantage of your seniority and ordered me around like a servant just because you're an elder of the Yuan family. Then let me ask you, I, Zhuowen, am not a member of the Yuan family. What right do you have to order me around? Also, you said that I can't be associated with the Yuan family. Do you really think that the Yuan family is so powerful that I, Zhuowen, need to be associated with them? And Yuan Xianfeng, as the head of the Yuan family, you went back on your words and barged into my room. The Yuan family is the most despicable family I've ever seen. Zhuowen held Lung Ying in his right hand. His face was as cold as the winter. Since the Yuan family was so heartless, then don't blame him, Zhuowen, for being unjust. Enough. Just as Zhuowen and Lung Feng were about to confront each other, Yuan Xianfeng finally spoke up. His face was extremely gloomy, and at the same time, he was a little surprised by Zhuowen. The young man's aura was clearly only at the second wheel of the ultimate emperor realm, but even he hadn't been able to react in time when Zhuowen had captured Lung Ying. Zhuowen's speed wasn't something an ordinary ultimate emperor realm cultivator could display. As soon as Yuan Xianfeng said this, Lung Feng, who was about to attack, froze. He turned around and said to Yuan Xianfeng, "Patriarch, this kid is too arrogant. He actually kidnapped Lung Ying in front of us, and even slapped her in front of us. How can we tolerate such a vile situation? Wan Xianfeng didn't answer Lung Feng. Instead, he stared at Zhuowen and said, "How confident are you in expelling the cold qi from Lingyu's body?" "More than 80%. As long as you give me time, the cold qi that has accumulated in Miss Lingyu's dantian will be completely expelled," Zhuowen replied coldly. "Then I'll trust you one more time. This time, we're standing in this room. I can't guarantee that if you're alone with my daughter in this room, nothing bad will happen," Ruan Xianfeng said indifferently. "As you wish," Zhuowen replied. However, he was sneering in his heart. This Wan Xuanfeng's words were pretty nice. He said that he would trust him one more time. Now that something like this had happened, he couldn't see any sincerity in Wan Xuanfeng's words. "Then can you let Lung Ying go?" Lung Feng said coldly, "This bitch is an eyesore to me. Get her out of here." Zhuowen casually tossed Lung Ying aside, causing Lung Feng to hurriedly reach out to catch Lung Ying's body. Looking at Lung Ying, who was on the verge of delirium, and whose cheeks were swollen, Lung Feng felt like killing someone. "You're really something. I'll remember today's incident. You'd better be careful in Yin City. Otherwise, if you accidentally die on the road one day, you can't blame anyone." Lung Feng glared at Zhuowen coldly, then carried Lung Ying out of the room. At this moment, only Wan Xianfeng, Zhuowen, Heavenly Master Bai Mei, and Wan Lingyu were left in the room. Wan Xianfeng stood quietly at the door. His sharp eyes stared at Wan Lingyu, who was on the bed, and he was deep in thought. Chapter 913. Successful removal. A wisp of black light flowed from Wan Lingyu's abdomen into Zhuowen's body through his palm. The wisp of black light was inconspicuous, and Zhuowen's body blocked Wan Xuanfeng's view. Therefore, Wan Xianfeng did not notice the wisp of black light that flowed out from Wan Lingyu's abdomen. "Xiaohei, is it a success?" Zhuowen asked in his heart. "Don't worry. It's a success. The cold air in Wan Lingyu's dantian has been completely removed, and the 10,000 years black soul ice parasite larva has been taken out by me. It's in the seven-colored phoenix." As soon as Xiaohei's voice rang out, a terrifying temperature suddenly spread from Wan Lingyu's body. Soon after, a clear phoenix cry rang out, and Wan Lingyu's body actually surged with a seven-colored flame. Boom! The seven-colored flame turned into a thick pillar of fire that shot up to the sky. The temperature in the entire room rose to an extremely terrifying level, turning into a seven-colored sea of fire. What a terrifying flame! Wan Xianfeng waved his sleeves, and a terrifying gale swept out, blocking the flames that gathered around him. His eyes revealed a trace of horror. The seven-colored flame was indeed terrifying. It was even much more powerful than the ordinary earth fire. Wan Xianfeng knew that if he were in the center of the seven-colored flame, he would not be so calm. He would definitely be in an extremely difficult situation. For a moment, Wan Xianfeng was even more curious about Zhuowen. Where did he come from? The seven-colored flame appeared for a very short time, and quickly gathered into a seven-colored phoenix. It very intimately circled around Zhuowen's body. In the seven-colored phoenix's claws, there was a palm-sized blue crystal. After taking the blue crystal, Zhuowen saw at a glance that there was actually a wriggling and struggling flesh worm inside the crystal. Moreover, the flesh worm's eyes were green, which looked extremely strange. Moreover, the cold air emitted from the blue crystal was bone-chilling, causing Zhuowen's body to involuntarily tremble. "Brat! This is the larva of the 10,000-year black soul ice venomous worm. This is a good thing. The cold air it contains is extremely beneficial to your holy ice rune." Xiaohei's voice sounded in his mind again. Whoosh! A shadow flashed and arrived at the bedside. At this moment, Wan Xianfeng looked at Wan Lingyu with concern and asked softly, "Lingyu, how are you feeling?" Wan Lingyu slowly opened her eyes. There was a trace of confusion in her gaze. She slowly got up and asked softly, "Father, young Master Zhua, what's wrong with me?" The cold qi in my dantian has disappeared, and the essence force in my meridians can flow smoothly into my dantian." As if she had discovered something, Wan Lingyu's beautiful eyes widened. Her gaze was filled with joy. Wan Lingyu waved her jade-like hand, and a weak wave of origin energy actually condensed in the center of her palm, like a glimmer of light. Has he really recovered? Wan Xianfeng also saw the origin energy condensed in the center of Wan Lingyu's palm. He reached out his right hand and grabbed Wan Lingyu's delicate wrist. The joy in his eyes intensified because he realized that there was indeed no more cold qi in Wan Lingyu's dantian. The origin energy that was previously blocked by the cold qi was now constantly circulating in Wan Lingyu's body. The circulation speed was also increasing, and the origin energy was like a trickle that was constantly growing. Wan Xianfeng released Wan Lingyu's hand and cupped his hands at Zhuowen. He said gratefully, "Little brother Zhua, thank you for getting rid of the cold qi in Lingyu's body. We were wrong to have doubted you at the beginning. I hope you can understand." At this moment, Wan Lingyu also sat up. Her beautiful eyes were filled with pleasant surprise. She smiled sweetly at Zhuowen and said, "Young Master Zhua, this time, it's all thanks to you that the cold qi in my body was removed." Zhuowen shook his head and ignored Wan Xianfeng. Instead, he smiled at Wan Lingyu and said, "Miss Lingyu, you're too polite. Back then, you saved my life. Compared to this, it's nothing. After all, I've already made a promise to you. Today, I'm just fulfilling my promise. Since this matter has been settled, I won't stay any longer. Goodbye." As he spoke, Zhuowen cupped his hands and was about to leave. However, he was stopped by Wan Xianfeng. "Is there anything else, Wan family head?" Zhuowen stared at Wan Xianfeng and asked calmly. Wan Xuanfeng's face stiffened slightly, but soon returned to normal. He smiled and said, "The cold qi in Lingyu's body has been expelled. This is a joyous occasion. In order to thank little brother Zhua for your contribution, why don't you stay at our Wan residence for a night, and we can celebrate together?" "That's right. Young Master Zhua, your contribution this time is great. This cold qi has troubled me for 8 years, and you're the one who expelled it. No matter what, you should stay and celebrate." Wan Lingyu also persuaded Zhuowen. Zhuowen shook his head again and said to Wan Lingyu, "There's no need. I'm only here to fulfill my promise. I don't want any reward. Also, Miss Lingyu, it's best if you don't carry the phoenix feather with you. It's not good for you." "Ah, phoenix feather?" Wan Lingyu was shocked. She removed the flame-like phoenix feather from her bosom and said to Zhuowen, "Young Master Zhua, ever since I carried the phoenix feather with me, I can clearly feel that my body is much better than before. My complexion is also much rosier. How can it not be good?" Seeing Wan Lingyu's puzzled expression, and recalling what Leng Feng said about Wan Lingyu and Xianpu's engagement, Zhuowen knew that it was better to explain this matter to Wan Lingyu, so that she could be more wary of Xianpu. "Miss Lingyu, the cold qi in your dantian is released by the larva of a species called the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite." As he spoke, a blue crystal appeared in Zhuowen's palm. Wisps of strange cold qi lingered around the blue crystal. Through the blue crystal, one could see a fat worm wriggling inside the crystal. This worm was very strange. Its eyes were actually green and looked exceptionally disgusting. Looking at the worm in the blue crystal, Wan Lingyu and Wan Xuanfeng's faces revealed a trace of disgust. "Young Master Zhua, you mean that this worm has always been in my dantian?" Wan Lingyu asked with a slightly pale face. Zhuowen nodded and said, "Yes. Back then, when you were still young, you were implanted with this parasite. This is an extremely vicious parasite that uses the human body as nourishment and a lathe. It will constantly grow in the human body's dantian. When the person who was implanted with the parasite reaches 18 years old, this 10,000-year-old profound soul ice parasite larva will actually break out of its cocoon and transform into a profound soul ice butterfly. Once it successfully breaks out of its cocoon and transforms into a butterfly, this black soul ice butterfly will treat the person as food and devour them. At that time, the person will die without a burial place." Speaking of this, Wan Lingyu's beautiful face was incomparably pale. Her lips trembled as she said, "How is that possible? Who planted such a vicious parasite in my body?" Wan Lingyu did not doubt the truth of Zhuowen's words. After all, Zhuowen had personally removed the worm from her body. It was obvious that he had a better understanding of this type of worm than the average person. This one does not know. But Miss Yuan, the phoenix feather on your body has a catalyzing effect on the growth of this 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva. If you wear the phoenix feather for a long time, the larva will break out of its cocoon and transform into a butterfly. So, Zhuowen did not continue speaking, because his meaning was already very clear. Since the phoenix feather had a catalyzing effect on the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva, then the person who gave it to her back then definitely did not have good intentions. Young Master Zhua, you mean to say that Xianpu intentionally gave this phoenix feather to me? Wan Lingyu's entire body trembled as she asked. On the other hand, Wan Xianfeng frowned slightly and said with a slightly cold voice, according to little brother Zhua's meaning, could it be that this so-called 10,000-year black soul ice parasite was planted by that Xianpu? The Xianpu family has a large family business. If they wanted to choose nourishment, there are so many people in their family. Why did they choose Lingyu? Because Miss Lingyu is a woman born in a Yin year, Yin month, Yin day, Yin hour. Her body has an innate extreme Yin aura. This extreme Yin aura is extremely beneficial to the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva. Without this extreme Yin aura, it would be very difficult for the larva to survive. Zhuowen's expression was calm as he continued. So when facing that Xianpu, Miss Lingyu should be careful. Humph. That's just your one-sided words. Don't tell me that Xianpu gave Lingyu a phoenix feather that just happens to have a catalyzing effect on the 10,000-year black soul ice parasite larva. Do you think that Xianpu has ulterior motives? Wan Xianfeng said coldly. Zhuowen sneered and said mockingly, Master Wan, if you think that Xianpu's proposal to Miss Lingyu is an opportunity for your Wan family to soar, then you are gravely mistaken. If you really agree to this marriage, I'm afraid you'll be pushing Miss Lingyu into the fire pit. Nonsense, a bunch of nonsense. That Xianpu truly loves Lingyu. Don't tell me that little brother Zhua came here to break up the marriage between our Wan family and the Xiaoyan family? I think little brother Zhua's wishful thinking is wrong. Wan Xuanfeng's words became somewhat impolite. It's up to you to believe it or not. I've already helped Miss Lingyu expel the cold aura, so I won't stay any longer. Goodbye. Casually glancing at the somewhat angry Wan Xianfeng, Zhuowen's mocking smile became even more intense. How could he not know what Wan Xianfeng was thinking? After all, the Xiaoyan family was one of the 4 strongest families in Yin City. If the Wan family could climb up this big tree, it would be of great help to the Wan family's development. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so it was very difficult for Wan Xianfeng to reject Xianpu's marriage proposal. Or rather, even if Xianpu had ulterior motives, Wan Xianfeng would probably agree without hesitation. Zhuowen took a step forward and left the private room. He didn't have any intention of staying. Father, since young Master Zhua helped me expel the cold aura from my body, it means that he is very familiar with the origin of this cold aura. Moreover, I also feel that Xianpu is strange. He is the second young master of an aristocratic family. Why would he suddenly take a fancy to a girl from a small family like me? There must be something fishy about this. Chapter 914. Marriage proposal. At this moment, the Yuan clan's martial arts practice field was bustling with activity. The juniors who were originally cultivating were now gathered in the martial arts practice field, looking up at the sky as if waiting for something to arrive. Whoosh! A sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Following that, a griffin that was dozens of feet long descended from the sky and landed in the middle of the martial arts practice field. Its wings were dozens of meters long when spread out. With a flap of its wings, a powerful gust of wind wreaked havoc in the open space. The juniors of the Yuan clan who were nearby were forced back by the gust of wind. Their eyes were filled with shock. On the back of the griffin stood a dozen figures. The leader was dressed in a yellow robe and had a refined smile on his face. If Zhuowen was here, he would definitely recognize him. Wasn't this Xianpu whom they had met in the group last time? It's the second young master of the Xiaoyan family, Xianpu. This time, he's here to propose marriage to Miss Yuan, right? It must be. Don't you see that there are so many large boxes on the griffin? Those should be the betrothal gifts prepared by the Xiaoyan family. There are more than 20 boxes. With the Xiaoyan family's influence, the items inside must be pretty good. I didn't expect the Xiaoyan family to propose marriage to our Wan clan. Although Xiaoyan's talent is not as good as his brother's, he's still quite famous in Yin City. He's 21 years old and has already reached the peak of the ultimate emperor stage. He's much stronger than our Lung Ying. Around the martial arts practice field, many of the juniors of the Ruan clan stared enviously at Xiaoyan and the others on the back of the griffin. In their hearts, they fantasized that if they could have even a tenth of Xiaoyan's elegance, they would not have wasted their lives in this world. Unfortunately, they could only fantasize about it in their hearts. As for whether it could be realized, that was something that they did not know. Xiaoyan was in high spirits, as he led more than 10 people carrying more than 20 large boxes to the griffin. They arrived at the martial arts practice field. I didn't expect young Master Xiaoyan to propose marriage in advance. Welcome, welcome. As soon as Xiaoyan came down, Lung Feng and Lung Ying walked out from the crowd. After being called out by Ruan Xianfeng, they came to the martial arts practice field and coincidentally met Xiaoyan. So it's Elder Lung and Miss Lung Ying. Originally, this young master had planned to propose marriage 3 days later. But after thinking about it, this matter should not be delayed. I believe that Ruan clan head and Elder Lung Feng wouldn't mind, right? Xiaoyan cupped his hands politely at Lung Feng. His attitude wasn't particularly humble. Instead, it made him seem a little arrogant. As the second young master of the Xiaoyan family, Lung Feng could not be mentioned in the same breath as him. After all, Xiaoyan's guards were not inferior to Lung Feng in terms of strength. Therefore, Lung Feng and Lung Ying did not feel that Xiaoyan's attitude was inappropriate. Instead, they felt that it was only natural. I wonder if Miss Lingyu is doing well? Xiaoyan asked gracefully. Lung Feng and Lung Ying looked at each other. After a moment of silence, Lung Ying said softly, "Everything is fine with Lingyu. However, an uninvited guest came to our Wuan residence today. He said that he could completely expel the cold energy from Lingyu's body." What? Completely dispel the chill in Miss Lingyu's body? Who is this person? Did he succeed? Xiaoyan asked somewhat anxiously. Xiaoyan's behavior did not arouse Lung Feng and Lung Ying's suspicions. Lung Ying continued, "We don't know yet. That person is still in the room trying to expel the cold energy from Lingyu's body. Moreover, this person is no stranger to young Master Xiaoyan. He is the Zhuowen who suddenly disappeared from our group." Thinking about the humiliation she suffered in the room, Lung Ying couldn't help but tremble. Her voice also became somewhat cold. You're saying that the person who came to your Wuan residence to expel the cold energy from Miss Lingyu's body is the young man that your Wuan clan saved last time. Zhuowen? Xiaoyan's eyes narrowed. His gaze contained a trace of sharpness. The scene of Demon Daozi and Qing Su searching for Zhuowen at the same time was still fresh in Xiaoyan's mind. Therefore, after Xiaoyan returned to the Xiaoyan clan, he informed the upper echelons of this matter. The upper echelons of the Xiaoyan clan had also sent many people to the forest to search for Zhuowen. However, in the end, there was no trace of Zhuowen at all. Now, he didn't expect that Zhuowen would actually come to Yin City and coincidentally run into him. "Young Master Zhua, wait for me. My father didn't mean to say that. Don't be angry." A clear voice suddenly rang out from the depths of the martial arts practice field. It completely attracted the attention of everyone in the martial arts practice field. Even Lung Feng, Lung Ying, Xiaoyan and the rest turned their gazes over. This was because they all recognized the owner of this voice. Wasn't it Wan Lingyu? At this moment, Wan Lingyu's complexion was much rosier. Her cheeks were rosy and her cloud-like bun had a few strands of ink-black hair draped over her shoulders. At this moment, Wan Lingyu appeared charming and beautiful. She attracted the attention of many people in the martial arts practice field. Subsequently, the crowd's gazes shifted away from Wan Lingyu and gathered on the cold-looking young man in front of Wan Lingyu. The reason for this was mainly because Wan Lingyu was actually chasing after this young man in front of everyone's eyes. This scene caused the crowd to involuntarily let their imaginations run wild and wild. Perhaps because they realized something, the crowd's gazes shifted away again and landed on Xiaoyanpu. One must know that Ruan Lingyu was Xiaoyanpu's fiancé in name. Today, Xiaoyanpu came to the Ruan residence in high spirits to propose marriage. However, he didn't expect such a dramatic scene to occur. Xiaoyanpu's fiancé, Ruan Lingyu, actually chased after an unfamiliar young man without any reservation. This Zhuowen is really something. Xiaoyanpu laughed instead of being angry. However, his gaze became even colder as he stared fixedly at Zhuowen. It was as if he wanted to devour someone. Lung Feng and Lung Ying, who were standing beside Xiaoyanpu, naturally saw the former's expression. The two of them looked at each other, and the corners of their mouths curled up slightly. Zhuowen naturally heard Ruan Lingyu's shouts behind him. However, he didn't want to stay in the Ruan residence for too long. If it wasn't for the promise he made, he wouldn't have stepped into the Ruan residence at all. Moreover, he had to be questioned by the people in the Ruan residence. Zhuowen didn't want to suffer this kind of depressing feeling anymore. However, when Zhuowen walked into the martial arts practice field, he felt many gazes directed at him. Among them, there were a few that harbored ill intentions. He turned his head and saw Lung Feng and Lung Ying in the middle of the martial arts practice field, surrounded by many of the younger generation of the Ruan family. Apart from that, he also noticed a bone-chilling gaze. Needless to say, this gaze was emitted by Xiaoyanpu. Xiaoyanpu. Narrowing his eyes, Zhuowen didn't stop walking. He and Xiaoyanpu had minded their own business. If the latter didn't offend him, Zhuowen naturally wouldn't seek trouble for himself. Unfortunately, Zhuowen's thoughts were of his own accord. When he reached the middle of the martial arts practice field, Xiaoyanpu blocked his path. "What's the matter?" Zhuowen asked indifferently. "What do you think? Lingyu is my woman. What are your intentions for approaching and seducing her?" Xiaoyanpu stared at Zhuowen condescendingly, a trace of disdain in his eyes. This was because Zhuowen's aura was very weak in front of him. He was only at the ultimate emperor stage. As for the white-browed heavenly sovereign behind Zhuowen, Xiaoyanpu subconsciously ignored him. This was because the white-browed heavenly sovereign was even more ruthless. He had actually completely concealed his aura. Now he looked no different from an ordinary person. "From which dog's mouth did you hear that I was seducing Miss Lingyu?" Zhuowen was still as calm as water as he stared indifferently at Xiaoyanpu. When these words came out, Lung Ying and Lung Feng's expressions darkened. The corners of their mouths twitched. They were the ones who had told Xiaoyanpu about this. Now, Zhuowen's words were actually cursing them for having a dog's mouth. "Zhuowen, you lecher, are you still trying to quibble? Originally, our master of the Ruan clan believed that you could expel the cold from Lingyu's body. But what did you do? You actually drugged Lingyu and tried to ruin her chastity." Lung Ying suddenly pointed at Zhuowen and scolded him. Whoosh! Lung Ying's words caused an uproar. Everyone stared at Zhuowen and pointed at him. Their faces were filled with disdain. They didn't expect this seemingly harmless young man to do such a beastly thing. "Lung Ying, don't speak nonsense." Lung Feng hurriedly pulled Lung Ying back and glared at the latter. How could she speak nonsense like that? After all, Xiaoyanpu was still here. Lung Ying also realized that she had said something wrong. She immediately fell silent and didn't dare to look at Xiaoyanpu's darkened face. "Lingyu, is what Miss Lung Ying said true?" Xiaoyanpu asked in a low voice. He was the second young master of the Xiaoyan family. Now that he had mustered a large force to propose marriage, what he was waiting for was that his fiancée's purity had been sullied. If this news were to spread out at this time, where would he put his face? Where would the Xiaoyan family behind him put their face? Ruan Lingyu's pretty face turned pale. Her beautiful eyes looked at Lung Ying in shock. She didn't expect Lung Ying to say something like that. Wasn't she trying to ruin her chastity? Nonsense. I was just trying to expel the cold from Miss Lingyu's body. Now that the cold in Miss Lingyu's body has been completely expelled, don't speak nonsense because of some shameless bitch, Zhuowen said coldly. Huh. The cold in Lingyu's body has been expelled? Zhuowen, are you messing with us? Even the master of the Ruan clan can't do anything about the cold. How can a second-wheel ultimate emperor realm piece of trash like you cure her? Lung Feng said in disbelief. The cold in Ling Yu's body has indeed been expelled. Moreover, little brother Zhuo's character is upright. He didn't do anything improper. I was in the room at the time. A dignified voice sounded. No one knew when Yuan Xianfeng had arrived at the training grounds. Yuan Xianfeng walked up to Xiaoyan Pu and cupped his hands. Young Master Xiaoyan, don't listen to the rumors. That Zhuowen didn't do anything improper. Xiaoyan Pu's expression softened when he heard this. He pointed at Zhuowen and said, If that's the case, I won't pursue this matter. However, this boy spoke rudely to me just now. I want to teach him a lesson. I don't think the master of the Yuan clan will stop me, right? Chapter 9:15. Unlucky Xianpu. As soon as Yuan Xianfeng said that, Zhuowen's gaze immediately darkened. Yuan Xianfeng wasn't speaking up for Zhuowen. He was just trying to clarify Yuan Lingyu's innocence and appease Xiaoyan Pu. Now this sentence was even more biased towards Xiaoyan Pu. In Yuan Xuanfeng's opinion, even if he, Zhuowen, could successfully expel the cold energy from Yuan Lingyu's body, he would still be nothing compared to Xiaoyan Pu's finger. After all, in Yuan Xuanfeng's heart, Zhuowen was weak, while Xiaoyan Pu was a young master of an aristocratic family. The difference in status between the two was too big. As long as one wasn't stupid, they would take the opportunity to curry favor with Xiaoyan Pu. Father, how can you do this? Young Master Zhuo successfully expelled the cold energy from my body. He is the benefactor of the Yuan clan. How can you do this? Yuan Lingyu was indignant. Just as she was about to walk towards Zhuowen, she was pulled back by Yuan Xianfeng. His powerful origin energy confined her in place, making it impossible for her to move. Lingyu, Zhuowen fulfilled his promise to help you expel the cold energy. Now that he has succeeded, he has nothing to do with the Yuan clan. Therefore, there is no need for the Yuan clan to help Zhuowen. Also, young Master Xiaoyan personally came to propose marriage. You should prepare well. I will send you to the Xiaoyan clan to marry young Master Xiaoyan. Yuan Xianfeng said indifferently. At this moment, Lung Feng and Lung Ying also came to Yuan Xuanfeng's side. The two of them said, Master is right. How can Zhuowen be compared to young Master Xiaoyan? Young miss, please don't go astray and listen to the words of an unruly person. Meanwhile, Xiaoyan Pu's expression had turned ugly. This time, he had brought a lot of people to propose marriage, and Yuan Lingyu was his fiancée in name. But now, his fiancée was protecting a stranger. How could Xiaoyan Pu's expression be any better? You're really shameless. I don't know what drug you gave Lingyu to make her help you like this. Now I'll give you a chance. Kneel in front of me and bark 3 times. Then, cripple your cultivation, and I'll let you leave the Yuan clan. I won't take your life. Xiaoyan Pu stared at Zhuowen from high above. His eyes were filled with indifference. Clearly, he didn't care much about Zhuowen. After all, what could a mere second-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator do? Zhuowen's gaze became increasingly gloomy. He glanced indifferently at the faces of Yuan Xianfeng and the others, and his gaze was filled with killing intent. His sights was intolerable. Worst to was. To s, not to sss. To hims. Tuzes. Scram. After Zhuowen spat out this word, he suddenly threw a punch at Xiaoyan Pu in front of him. This Xiaoyan Pu was like a housefly, buzzing around his ear, causing Zhuowen's mind to be in a mess. Looks like you're courting death. Seeing Zhuowen's fist coming at him, Xiaoyan Pu's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His right hand formed a claw, and a terrifying yuan power gushed out. He fearlessly met Zhuowen's fist with his claw. Crack! The crisp sound of bones breaking rang out. Immediately, Xiaoyan Pu felt a sharp pain in his right claw. Then, he was shocked to find that his right claw had been twisted by Zhuowen's punch. The bones in his arm had broken and pierced out of his shoulder. Drip! Fresh blood splattered down. Xiaoyan Pu's miserable howl filled the air. Then, a figure flew out and landed heavily on the ground dozens of meters away. Swoosh! Swoosh! Everyone's gazes gathered in that direction, only to see a figure hugging his right arm in a sorry state. He was howling and struggling as bright blood dripped from his right arm, forming a small stream on the ground. When everyone's gaze shifted to the miserable figure's face, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. The one who had been sent flying with a single move and had his right arm crippled was none other than Xianpu. Xianpu was a powerful four-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator, but the young man in front of him had a weak aura. He looked like he was only a two-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. However, the result of their exchange was that Xianpu's right arm was crippled, and he fell to the ground, screaming in pain. The other person was unscathed. "A piece of trash like you dares to be so arrogant in front of me? You even threatened to make me kneel down and bark, and cripple my own cultivation?" Zhuan smiled coldly. He took a step forward, and was about to charge at Xianpu again. "How dare you, thief! How dare you!" A loud shout rang out. Immediately, the dozen cultivators behind Xianpu flew out. Zhuan's attack had been too fast. Before they could react, Xianpu's right arm had been crippled, and he was in such a sorry state. Now that they had all come back to their senses, they were all shocked and furious. They looked at Zhuan with eyes full of cold killing intent. The dozen cultivators that Xianpu had brought with him this time were not weak. The strongest among them was around the 7-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm, and the weakest was at the 4-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm. The combined power of these dozen cultivators was extremely terrifying. Zhuan hid his cultivation from the beginning. Wan Xianfeng, Lung Feng, and the others also saw the scene just now. Their faces revealed thoughtful expressions. It was obvious that Zhuo Wen's sudden outburst and defeat Xiaoyan Pu with a single punch was somewhat out of their expectations. Zhuo Wen is dead for sure. He crippled Xianpu's right arm. He's destined to be hunted down by the Xianpu aristocratic family. Lung Ying came back to her senses, and a cold smile appeared on her pretty face. Wan Xianfeng and Lung Feng nodded. They had all experienced how terrifying the Xianpu aristocratic family was. After all, such an aristocratic family had a powerful golden venerable realm ancestor in charge. Such an existence was supreme and unapproachable in their eyes. It was precisely because of the strength of the Xianpu aristocratic family that Wan Xianfeng was biased towards Xianpu. As for Zhuowen's strength that surpassed Xianpu's, Wan Xianfeng was quite moved. Unfortunately, Zhuowen had no backing. How could he be compared to the Xianpu aristocratic family? Therefore, even though Wan Xianfeng knew that Xianpu had gone overboard, he still had no intention of helping Zhuowen. "Father, how can you repay kindness with ingratitude? Xianpu kindly came to the Wan clan to help you. Why don't you help him?" Wan Lingyu's pretty face was filled with shock and anger, especially after seeing that Zhuowen was surrounded by the Xianpu aristocratic family's warriors. Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. Unfortunately, she was now confined to the spot by Wan Xianfeng and could not move at all. Otherwise, she would have risked her life to help Zhuowen. "Fool! Don't be silly. Zhuowen crippled Xianpu's right arm, so he has already formed a grudge with the Xianpu aristocratic family. If we help Zhuowen deal with the Xianpu aristocratic family, then our Wan clan will be doomed eternally." Wan Xianfeng shook his head. "Father, Xianpu's identity is mysterious and his strength is very strong. In addition, he can expel the cold air from my body. Do you think Xianpu's background is weaker than the Xianpu aristocratic family? Perhaps the power behind Xianpu aristocratic family is not weaker than the Xianpu aristocratic family. If we help Xianpu aristocratic family, we will be able to gain the favor of the power behind him. Moreover, the Xianpu aristocratic family proposed marriage to our Wan clan for no reason. There is something fishy in itself. Don't be blinded by benefits, okay?" Wan Lingyu scolded somewhat angrily. Wan Shuanfeng's actions disappointed her. Wan Shuanfeng's gaze froze. What Wan Lingyu said was not without reason. Zhuowen did not look like a rogue cultivator. After all, the strength he displayed was indeed not inferior to the average aristocratic family's disciples. In fact, he was even more outstanding. Generally speaking, a young martial artist with such talent and strength would be backed by a powerful force. "Master, don't listen to such words. We were the ones who saved Zhuowen. Moreover, from the looks of it, he was being hunted down. Even if he is a disciple of a big family, looking at his sorry state, I'm afraid that even if he has a powerful force behind him, he has already been eliminated, Lung Feng suddenly said. Wan Xianfeng nodded and said in a deep voice, Elder Lung's words are not without reason. Zhuowen has always been a lone wolf. He doesn't look like a warrior with a powerful force behind him. Moreover, even if he does, I'm afraid that it might not be comparable to the Xianpu aristocratic family. So let's just wait and see what happens next. Having said that, Wan Xianfeng stopped talking. His gaze was fixed on Zhuowen, who was in front of him, as well as the dozen or so extremely powerful warriors surrounding Zhuowen. Wan Xianfeng was indeed an old fox. He knew that if he chose the wrong side, it would be a devastating blow to the Ruan clan. Therefore, he could only wait and see. In the end, no one could blame the Ruan clan. At this moment, Zhuowen stared indifferently at the dozen or so warriors around him. With a wave of his right hand, he took out a blood spear from his spirit ring and said indifferently, The one who offended me is Xianpu, not you. If you don't want to die, scram. What an arrogant tone. Do you really think that you're invincible after defeating Xiaoyan? Later, we'll let you have a taste of what it's like to live a life worse than death. The strongest man in the lead licked his lips and said coldly, If that's the case, then all of you can die. After saying that, Zhuowen didn't waste any more words. With a stomp of his foot, his entire body turned into a bloody shadow, and his speed soared to the extreme. It was as if hundreds of Zhuowen's bloody shadows had appeared in the surrounding space in an instant, dazzling everyone who saw it. Deliberately mystifying. Let's go together and take this person down. The leader shouted coldly. Although the blood shadow that suddenly appeared was extremely fast, he was not afraid. After all, they had more people on their side. He did not believe that Zhuowen could escape from his grasp. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.